Well, that was fucking painful.
We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, welcome back to the channel that does the stupidity what I just did to the biggest flat earther on TikTok. Fuck me. That was like debating a baby Flerf with all the basic arguments back when I started in 2018, 2019. Oh my god. The horizon's only apparent. It's a magic ether. Like, that's not an experiment. But I don't care if it's from space. Oh my god. I see someone called Sam Price in the chat. It says, "Can you get a real job?" This is a real job. I make my money here and I pay taxes and stuff. That definitely defines this as a real job. And if I wasn't doing this, then I probably couldn't work and I'd be on benefits. So shut the fuck up. And then he also says, "Any more domestic violence?" I've never been involved in domestic violence. I've never, ever hit my wife. My wife is Scottish, and if I hit her, she'd beat the fuck out of me. There she is. She's beautiful and terrifying. So, Sam, shut the fuck up. So, I just had a debate on Jeranism's channel with Kaleb, Casey Industries from TikTok. It went exactly as I expected it to, with him doing nothing but say stupid things, providing zero evidence for the flat earth. Absolutely brilliant. It kind of went exactly how I wanted it to do, to be honest. I wanted him to go first, and he did. I wanted him to ask a bunch of stupid questions and say stupid things and try and gaslight me and stuff the whole time. He did exactly what I expected him to do the whole thing, whilst completely misunderstanding very, very basic bits of physics, like, you know, how light works, for instance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replay the stream, right? If there's anything that I feel like I need to comment on, I'll pause it and give a bit more of, an update. But mainly this is for people that want to see the debate that weren't able to catch it over on Jeranism's channel. So let's do that, shall we?
Correct. If we admit Mick,
just make sure I've got the audio coming through. But thank you very much, everyone, for the support as always. Now, here is the debate. Here is me versus TikTok Flerf extraordinaire, Kaleb Casey Industries, being basically a baby Flerf.
special time. Fight the flat Earth versus Kaleb. I almost slipped on that one. It's going to be a great one. I'm looking forward to it. Let's bring them on, and I'll try to get Craig's name correct the rest of the show. I promise. Guys, how's it going? Are you guys ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just real quick, tell people who you are, where they can find you, and then we'll get right into it. Go ahead. Kaleb, you start us out.
My name's Kaleb. You can find me on TikTok on 5 different accounts because of how censored I am. Kaleb.fe is my main one. I also have Telegram. I'm also on X. But I'd recommend everyone find me on TikTok at Kaleb.fe.
Wait, I'm confused.
Awesome, and Craig.
Hey, I'm Craig. You can find me on the YouTube channel FTFE. You can also find me on the platform formerly known as Twitter, on Facebook, and all the good socials. Stream has disappeared. I regularly debate flat earthers and do videos talking about science and physics. Oh, there we go.
Okay, fantastic. And if you guys are used to the show, it has a structure that we're not going by tonight. We're just going to see if we can have a conversation without any need for a clock or anything. So we'll see how it goes, and then if we need to change it, we will. If you guys have questions that you want to have asked, if you send in a super chat on Rockfin or YouTube, we'll get to those by the end. So I believe they've already decided. Kaleb, you're going first, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's all yours when you want, and you're going to be sharing your screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. Oh, I just that up. Just move some shit.
And if people are interested in debating on the show, you can go to t.me/debatism on Telegram. There's a group there, people throwing their names in the hat and saying what they want to debate, or you can email us at debatism@outlook and get you scheduled, or you can just go to jeranism.com/debatism if you have issues or questions about the format. Okay, Kaleb, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Bet. Tonight we are going to be debating, is the Earth a level topographical plane, or is the Earth an oblate spheroid, ellipsoid, pear, as Neil deGrasse Tyson says? We're going to hopefully figure that out by the end of this debate. There we go. So what do our senses tell us? The default position is to assume that the Earth is flat because we feel no motion, simply because that's all we observe. We see a horizontal horizon no matter what altitude that we climb to. We feel no motion to the Earth, yet they claim we're moving over 1.2 million miles an hour through a vacuum. That cannot be substantiated due to the laws of thermodynamics and entropy. So this is the horizon. It's horizontal. It is an apparent location, not a geometric location necessitated by the radius and circumference claimed by the globe side. So this is what you see. We will see the ground ramp up. All this water is flat here on the right, and the sky is ramping down. But because of an artifact of perspective, because our eyes are curved lenses, it ramps up and ramps down, creating an apparent location where the sky meets the ground. Again, here's another picture demonstrating this. As these telephone poles get further away from us, they get lower in perspective due to the laws of perspective. A lot of globe earthers will necessitate that this is evidence that the Earth is a globe because things disappear from bottom up or appear from the top to bottom when they're coming towards you. But this is just an artifact of perspective, suggesting that the Earth is flat and we are just curving hyperbolic space with our curved lenses that we call eyes. This is just a death blow to the heliocentric model right here. This is an old picture that has been shown by plenty of people. This is a 1-foot observer height, seeing a platform, an oil rig at over 9.41 miles away, necessitating that the Earth's radius be much more, by a factor of over like 15, much more than 3,959 that they claim that the Earth's radius is. Let's hear from McToon himself about the horizon, and I'm going to be really interested to see what FTFE has to say about the horizon, whether it's physical, whether it's geometrical, because for us to claim that boats going over the horizon proves the Earth is a ball and it's not an artifact of a type of mirage or perspective, angular resolution, things like that, I would like to see. But let's hear what McToon has to say. I think he sets a very good example for this debate.
I don't think you shared with sound, sir.
No way.
Funny.
Whatever. We'll skip it. It's all good. Either way, he admits that the horizon is an apparent location that fluctuates based on atmospheric conditions and temperature differentials, which is reality. So you cannot say that any observation of the horizon necessitates that the Earth is curving or that the quadrillions of gallons of water are convexing around the Earth's surface. That's a begging the question fallacy. Anyway, long-distance laser experiments conducted by FE Core suggest that the Earth is flat. Plane surveying is a form of surveying which assumes that the Earth the Earth to be flat for up to 10 square miles. Sorry, not a. Oh, wait, it might be 100 square miles. Either way, I might be wrong on that. Marconi's successful propagation of a radio transmission over 2,000 miles across the ocean suggests that the Earth is flat. It was horizontally propagated, and globers, all they have to say is, oh, the ionosphere. Oh, it went up there and it bounced back down to the Earth. You just have to believe us. We have no empirical evidence to suggest this, but there's an ionized plasma part of the atmosphere which radio waves reflect back down to the Earth.
Right. We didn't get to cover this in the debate, but yeah, what he did there was a typical flat Earth thing of go, oh, well, you've got no explanation apart from this thing, which I'm just going to mock and pretend isn't real. I mean, you literally, Kaleb, explained how it worked and then just claimed that thing isn't real, despite all the experiments showing that ionospheric bouncing is a real thing, which is kind of what he did the entire thing. He talked about the things and then just claimed they weren't real. I mean, let's face it, guys. If you just deny all the evidence, then, you know, I guess there is no evidence, right?
Anyway, there's no evidence for that. All long-distance observations made past the claimed radius and circumference of the globular Earth all suggest that the Earth is flat. So, either way, let's keep going. So, I have 3 topics that I'd like to talk to Craig about today. I'd like to talk about the horizon and whether we can substantiate that the Earth is curved from looking at the horizon. I'd also like to talk about whether the Earth is in motion. Up to him if we go down this route. But as we can see here, Michelson-Morley experiment, they expected a fringe shift to pick up the 30 kilometers per second assumed rotation or orbit around the sun. This conclusion, well, this is what he said after the experiment was done. This conclusion directly contradicts the explanation which presupposes that the Earth moves. Every experiment in the history of mankind has substantiated this exact same statement, showing that the Earth is not in motion at all, not even 1 mile per hour. Here is a couple quotes from Einstein himself from the theory of relativity. For the question of whether or not the motion of Earth can be made perceptible in terrestrial experiments, we have already remarked in section 5 that all attempts of this nature led to a negative result. Before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to become reconciled to this negative result. And then he also said, while I was thinking of this problem in my student years, I came to know the strange result of the Michelson experiment. Soon, I came to the conclusion that our idea about the motion of the Earth with respect to the ether is incorrect. If we admit Michelson's null result as a fact, this was the first path that led me to the special theory of relativity. Since then, I have come to believe that no motion of the Earth no motion of the Earth cannot be detected by any optical experiment. And then he assumes that we rotate around the sun, even though he just admitted that we can't make it perceptible in any optical experiment. Also, we cannot use the Foucault's pendulum to suggest that the Earth is rotating on its axis. Because we have relational mechanics here by Andre K.T. Assist, where he goes through all the physics, all the math to show that you cannot use it. The flattened figure of the Earth, or Foucault's pendulum, can no longer be utilized as proof of the Earth's real rotation. There's also something called the Machian principle, which I'm sure we'll go into, which Ernst Mach came up with.
All right, so with this bit, I had a quick look at this on Andre K.T. Assis, what he's talking about, and he's talking about if you do a different model of the Earth, to try and simplify things, then in those cases, under those conditions, you can't use Foucault's pendulum. It's not trying to disprove Foucault's pendulum in any way, shape, or form. Toon's law of Flerfs, right? Toon citations always debunk. Flerfs citations always debunk them.
Which assumed that if all of the universe is rotating around us at a central special location, that a translation of motion would be translated down to the Earth through the atmosphere and the ether, processing a pendulum. Now, gravity. Gravity is the third topic that I'm excited to get into with Craig. We'll see how it goes. Is Einstein's theory of gravitation true, which is the current theory? So if you are defending gravity, you must defend the bending and warping of a fourth-dimensional fabric called space-time, creating gravity wells, creating orbits, and other insane things. So gravity, just for everybody in the audience, all the heliosexuals in the audience, gravity is a theory. Gravity is not a fact. And the law of gravitation is just a mathematical model that is consistent
I love it.
with a downward acceleration.
This is actually one of my favorite things when flat earthers use that article as evidence for gravity. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It happens at least once a day, right? And I'm genuinely not even kidding. That a flat earther will bring up this article because when they search in Google, is gravity a theory, they get this article, which is satire. It's a joke. It's insane that flat earthers constantly use this satire article. And when he brought it up, I was just like, this is fucking beautiful. Oh my God.
That's it. So just to set the bias here, it's only a theory. It's not been proven. There's no substantial evidence to suggest that bendy, warpy space-time is a fabric that bends in the presence of large masses. Now, I want to go over the difference between Newtonian and Einsteinian just for the audience, because a lot of Globers get this messed up. Newton theorized that...
I mean, he can try and go over it, but he didn't understand in the slightest that basically they say the same thing.
Gravitation is a result of mass acting on mass at infinite distances instantaneously. He had no time variable in his equation, so this must be assumed. This was a huge flaw in his theory, hence why we have Einstein come about in 1915, which wrote the general theory of relativity, which explains gravitation as the fourth dimensional fabric called space-time, again, becoming warped in the presence of matter, creating gravity wells, causing planets and other celestial bodies to orbit. I'd like to read this quote from Nikola Tesla. Wonderful guy. I hold that space cannot be curved.
Nikola Tesla, a guy that worked with electricity and didn't believe in electrons. Yeah, let's listen to him.
For the simple reason that it can have no properties. It might as well be said that God has properties. He has not, but only attributes, and these are of our own making. Of properties we can only speak when dealing with matter filling the space. To say that in the presence of large bodies space becomes curved is equivalent to stating that something can act upon nothing. I, for one, refuse to subscribe to such a view. Great guy. Great quote. Space doesn't exist. Also, though, this is another topic. The direct antecedent to gas pressure is a container. To have a contained gas pressure system with PSI that's measurable, you have to have a container. So we cannot have our magical atmosphere that has a PSI coexisting next to the vacuum of space, which is 10 to the negative 17 torr. That not only defies all the laws of thermodynamics and entropy, but it defies common sense. This is what we see here. These two systems, without a barrier in between them, would be seeking equilibrium with each other violently.
Except it doesn't, does it? The atmosphere doesn't seek equilibrium violently, does it? It doesn't rush up to meet the atmosphere, does it? The fact that it's more pressure down here and less up there, the atmosphere isn't trying to equalize that. It's like there's some kind of force acting on stuff, like some kind of force, a force created by I don't know.
Gravity, you fucking retard! Gravity! Have you ever heard of fucking gravity? Gravity! Gravity!
All that we see in nature. I would love to see one reproducible experiment other than just saying the atmosphere, like Globy McGlobeface did and all these other clowns on TikTok. We have to have a container to have a pressurized system. You cannot have a vacuum coexist next to a pressurized system without them seeking equilibrium violently. They don't just coexist next to each other while we shoot through a vacuum at 500,000 miles an hour, 4.9 billion miles a year. Anyway, conclusion. The Earth is not convexing away omnidirectionally from every observer on Earth. It is, in fact, a level topographical plane with hills and valleys. The Earth is stationary, as every experiment of the history of mankind has shown it to be. The vacuum of space cannot coexist next to the pressurized atmosphere due to the laws of thermodynamics, entropy, and common sense. And I will end there and let Craig do his presentation.
Alrighty. Thank you much.
No problem.
Craig, it's on you whenever you want to go. Craig, you're not on camera. There we go. You're on mute.
There we go. Sorry, I had myself muted, so I didn't make any noise as well. Kaleb was talking.
Thank you.
Right. So, a lot of notes there from what Kaleb said, but we'll discuss that after my points. Straight away, one of the things that I want to talk about is the Foucault's pendulum. There is no evidence that suggests the Foucault's pendulum doesn't do what we suggest. In fact, Kaleb makes a very big thing about following the scientific method, even though there isn't just the scientific method. But if we want to talk about, say, the scientific method we learn at high school, basic 5 steps: observation, hypothesis, prediction, experiment, analysis, repeat, etc., then Foucault's pendulum follows that. So you can make an observation of anything, like the stars moving, in a particular pattern, or the sun going across the sky. That is a simple observation. You can form a hypothesis from that. You can either form a hypothesis of the stars and the sun are moving, or you can form a hypothesis that we're moving. A hypothesis is just an educated guess. And then you can make a prediction based on your hypothesis. And if the hypothesis is that the Earth is rotating, then that's going to mean certain physical things are happening, like a Coriolis force being applied. And if that's the case, then we can make predictions, which would be the next step in the scientific method. And the predictions is that if we have a pendulum swinging from a point attached to a pivot point, then depending on where it is on Earth, as it swings, it will drift a different amount. And this is an experiment that you can do, that you can test yourself. I did it when I was at university. In fact, so does every physics undergraduate, and uses it to actually calculate your position on Earth. It's very, very, very simple. This isn't me, because I didn't record my physics degree 20 odd years ago. This is a guy on YouTube called the Gentleman Physicist, and he built his own Foucault's pendulum in a high-rise building, and he let it swing for a certain amount of time, and over that amount of time it drifted a certain amount of time. There were 41 minutes it drifted, and you could measure the angle of the drift, do some basic maths, figure out how much it would rotate in 24 hours, and then you can actually use that and calculate your latitude on Earth. So with nothing but a swinging pendulum, you can use the degree of the angle that it drifts to find your latitude on Earth. And it works. The fact that it works, the fact that you can physically do this, it's a repeatable experiment. The fact that this can be repeated anywhere in the world by anyone with the right equipment, set up the correct way, you will be able to calculate your latitude on the planet. And that shows that it matches the predictions of the hypothesis following on from the observation, that based on the position on Earth, different Coriolis forces will be applied to a Foucault's pendulum. And you can use Foucault's sine law, which is latitude equals arc sine divided by times 24 hours divided by t. And then you find out your latitude on Earth. And they got 49.8, which was about within 1.4 degrees of where they are, which was pretty damn good considering the crude equipment used. And that's called a margin of error. So the fact that this experiment can be repeated constantly on different positions on Earth. There's experiments recorded on in the South Pole where they did this, and you get the expected 24 hours showing 360 degrees rotation. The fact that it is a repeatable experiment matching the predictions shows that it fails to falsify that the Earth is a rotating globe. The Foucault's pendulum experiment is great because it doesn't only show that we're rotating, but based on the Coriolis forces at different points, you can map out the forces and the vectors, and you find that that shows in itself that the Earth is also a globe as well as it being rotating. Other ways that we can figure out that the Earth is a globe is surveying. And one of the things that they do in surveying is something called measuring reciprocal zenith angles. So zenith angle directly above you, 90 degrees, is your zenith, okay? And if you set up 2 plumb bobs or theodolites at a different distance apart, you can see if those 2 plumb bobs are on the theodolites pointing straight up at your zenith are matching. If they point straight at each other and you measure the angles, if the Earth is flat, then you would get 180 degrees. If the Earth is a globe, you would get more than 180 degrees. And I don't have the page up, give me one sec. If you go to mctoon.net and go to main surveyor, and I know Kaleb likes likes MC Toon. They had a couple of good conversations. Give me one sec, I'll get that screen up. So the main surveyor and a couple of other qualified surveyors, Walter Bislan and Jesse Kozlowski, did their own measurements to check if reciprocal zenith angles is a thing. Here's a diagram explaining what they do. So If the Earth is flat, then these angles will sum up to 180. If the Earth is a globe, then there'd be more than 180. And the main surveyor went out and did a bunch of measurements of different elevations, following all the correct surveying methods. And the survey determined that all the sum of the reciprocal zenith angles came to more than 180 degrees, which would say that the surface of the Earth is not flat, it is in fact curved. You can go and look at all the details of the survey at your leisure. That all his logbooks are here, detailing all the measurements that he did. And the outcome of the survey was that there is a deviation of 1.4 degrees, which meant that there is curvature. It didn't sum to 180, it summed to more than 180. The only way that can happen is if the surface of the Earth is physically curved. Obviously, this takes into account topography and everything. That's all taken into account in the methods done. Excuse me. And this particular survey was, and what Desic was obviously did, was shown on Water Business page where he analysed it and did the maths to also show that refraction is taken into account. And even without refraction, that it shows the Earth is curved. If you add refraction, which would lift the image up, then it shows that the Earth is 100% curved. All the calculations and everything can be shown on this page. I can give anyone the link to this that they want to look over it themselves. But the outcome of the surveys done by these surveyors is that reciprocal zenith angles sum up to more than 180. And the only possible outcome from that is that the Earth is curved. Now, there's many measurements that back this up. You can look at historical measurements like the transcontinental triangulation, the American arc of the parallel, and all the other large-scale surveying operations that have been done throughout history to back up this curvature. You can look at all the measurements of the rotation of the Earth. In fact, there's a good list at mctoon.net/spin that all show that the Earth is rotating. Flat earthers themselves have confirmed that the Earth is rotating. So the fact that there is measurements that everyone can do, it's repeatable, it follows the scientific method, showing both curve and rotation, only comes to one conclusion, and that is that the Earth is not flat, it is curved. And that's my time.
Okay, thank you very much. And wherever you guys want to go from here.
Ted, you want to talk about the Earth being do you want to substantiate curvature? Do you want to talk about space-time, or do you want to talk about the Coriolis effect first?
Up to you. You can go wherever you like.
Okay, let's talk about gravity. So how do we substantiate that space and time act as a fourth dimensional fabric?
Well, it's not space and time, it's space-time, this one thing. And we can substantiate that by doing experiments, following the scientific method, as you like to insist. The scientific method says that if the light from a distant star passes by a large mass, then that light will deviate a certain amount dictated by the curvature of space-time. Then we can test that. And that was done in the Eddington experiment in 1919 and many other times to show that light from a distant star will bend when it gets close to our star, will change its path the predicted amount according to Einstein's equations.
Do we have the star plates from the observation of 1919?
Do we have the star plates?
Yep, that's how he made the observation, did he not?
I don't have them. Do you mean, do we have them?
Does anybody have them, or did we lose them?
I've no idea.
Well, the answer is we don't have them anymore. We've lost them, apparently, due to just a long time from it being observed. And so how do we substantiate without having the star plates that the stars even convex towards the sun in the first place? And also, isn't light massless? Why is space-time being warped acting on a massless thing?
Okay, two questions there. So the first one is you can repeat the experiment, which has been done many times. I can provide you with a list of experiments very similar to the Eddington experiment in 1919. Science likes to have repeatable experiments, and it is certainly repeatable following the predictions. And mass, light, although massless, is energy, and as Einstein's equivalence principle shows us, E equals mc squared, energy is equivalent to mass, which means that it will be affected by gravitational effects, especially when you talk about Einstein, because it's the physical fabric of the space that is warping. Imagine walking on a curved surface. Even if you are walking in a straight line yourself, the curved surface will change the direction that you are going. And because the space-time itself is curved, the straight path of light is changed based on that curvature of space-time. And funnily enough, even Newton actually predicted that the path of light would be altered by large masses, although his predictions showed it to be a lot less than Einstein's were.
So I didn't hear just saying. So does gravity act upon mass only?
No, gravity is a warping of space-time which can affect energy.
Okay. Where is it said that it can affect energy? Where is that said?
Well, Einstein's equivalence principle equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So mass is energy, effectively. So one is interchangeable with the other under certain conditions and energies, and therefore it can be affected in the same way. And again, only Newton, his descriptions of gravity said that it would affect only mass. But Einstein doesn't say that. Einstein's predictions are that this curvature of space-time will affect the path of light. That's what Einstein says.
Are you under the impression that E equals mc squared is in any way related to the theory of relativity that explains gravitation? They're two totally different subjects. You realize that, right?
Yeah, I said it's the equivalence principle.
So it doesn't have to do with anything with. So there's
like be considered to have mass in certain circumstances, you would go to E equals mc squared, where energy is mass. So that answers you. It's a lot deeper, and basically more than an undergraduate understanding of physics to get into that deep equation.
Energy doesn't equal mass. Energy is a factor or a modality of mass in that equation.
They're equivalent. That's the equivalence principle.
So in your mind, energy and something physical are the exact same thing.
Well, energy can become mass. That's something that happens.
Okay, I'll ask the question again. Is mass and energy, which energy is not defined in today's terms anyway. Nobody can define the term energy. What is energy? What is energy, Craig?
Work done. Well, mathematically, what do you want it to mean? What do you mean no one can define what energy is?
See how you're not able to define it? What is energy?
And energy is the amount of work done. It depends on the context that you want energy described. You want energy described in the context of mathematics. You want energy described in the context of mechanical principles.
I want it described in simple terms for a child to be able to understand. Energy, it's saying that energy is the amount of work to be done on something cannot be influenced by gravitation. You would agree, right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk there. You cut out. I apologize. And energy is literally the capacity to do work. That's what energy is.
So how does gravitation affect the capacity to do work?
Well, the capacity to work is interchangeable with mass. Energy equals mass.
That's what I'm saying. So do you think that mass and this idea of energy are completely the exact same thing? You think that this water bottle is the same as energy, hypothetical energy that can't be defined here?
Well, you could define everything in that water bottle in the terms of energy.
So you think they're the exact same thing? It's a very simple question.
Yeah, I just answered. All of the materials in that bottle can be defined in the terms of energy.
Okay, so let's talk about the space-time fabric. So you said that we can make observations. That's only one step of the scientific method. Other than making observations, and even if you look at the star plate from 1919, from Arthur Eddington's observation, some of the stars are moving away from the sun. I don't know if you saw Robert Bennett. Either way, there's a PhD that's been talking with Wits It Gets It, and he's been exposing that the star plates didn't even show that all stars tended towards the sun. Some of them moved away, some of them moved horizontally. Not all of them are tending towards the sun. So I'd love to see an observation that shows every single star and the light that's being emitted from it curving towards the sun because of space-time. And either way, it's a begging the question fallacy where you're assuming that it's because of space-time. It's just as equal for me to say, oh, no, there's actually unicorns up there that are tied to the sun that are pulling in the light towards it. As long as the math works out the same way, it's basically the same assumption that you're making, that it's space-time gravitation.
Okay, you do realize that assumptions aren't a problem in science. In fact, it's kind of a foundation of science. You have to make an assumption. That's what a hypothesis is, to be able to test something. And you can call it what you want. Space-time is just a name that they've given it. You can call it unicorns if you like. That's fine. I will call it Bob. It doesn't matter the name. The fact is, the prediction is that when you go and look at something, i.e. this thing will happen at this particular time and place. So, if you want to go through the scientific method, oh my God. So this bit really kind of annoyed me with him, because like he was trying to say that if you just change the name of something, then it's a different theory all of a sudden. And, it's just as valid a theory that unicorns do it because I say it's unicorns and not space-time. But, if your unicorns have the exact same mathematical model as space-time, then it doesn't matter. You call it whatever you want. It doesn't change what the thing actually is. And he just didn't get that. I mean, I don't know why I was getting mad about it. He's just a thick as fuck Flerf. He's already on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now, claiming victory, which of course they have to do. So any of you guys that follow me on X, and if you aren't following me on X, now would be a great time to do that, FTFE official. Go over and retweet the retweet that I've just done, or repost the repost that I've just done with a comment saying how badly I destroyed Kaleb. Observation is, I don't know, things accelerate towards the ground on Earth at 9.8 meters per second, roughly squared. My hypothesis is that it's because the fabric of space-time is curved by the large mass of Earth, and it will affect the path of objects and light. So how do we test that? Well, if that's true, when the light from a distant star passes our star, it will, according to these calculations, change its path a certain amount. That's a prediction based on the hypothesis. So you go and look at a particular time and place when you're able to do that during an eclipse, and you're able to see the stars that are close to our sun and test that prediction. And it's something that can be done over and over and over again. The observation is part of the experiment. The experiment can be going to a certain place at a certain time and seeing if a prediction takes place.
So you just admitted that it's just as valid to say that unicorns are pulling the star's light towards the sun. So you would have no way of substantiating that the fourth dimensional fabric called space-time exists in any physicality anyway, right? You can't substantiate that, correct?
You can call it what you want. You can call it unicorns if you want, but the predictions of the thing that we call space-time show that X will happen if Y is the case. And then we test that prediction. That's what we're doing.
No,
as you insist, with
that's
the
not
science.
that's not science.
Steps. Well, it is, because it follows the step.
So my theory would be just as valid as yours, right? You would say that my reference frame and my theory why light tends towards the sun, being unicorns pulling it too, would be just as valid as yours if the math worked out, right? It'd be just as valid, correct?
How would you test that theory?
How do you test space-time?
I with something similar to the Eddington experiment.
That's an observation. You're not testing it. That's an observation.
I explained how it is an experiment as well.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to walk you through your logic. I'm not saying that unicorns are pulling the light towards the sun. I'm saying there's no way to experiment and verify either assumption. Therefore, they are not validated by just looking at the stars and their moved positions. Which, again, if you look at the star plates from Arthur Eddington in 1919, not all the stars move towards the sun. So I guarantee if I look at all your other observations, not all of them are moving towards the sun either. So again, your theory falls apart just by looking at the evidence.
Okay, so yeah, it is an experiment. The fact that you predict something to happen at a particular time, then you go and check that thing at that time is that experiment.
No, that's not an experiment.
Please don't interrupt me. You've even got an IV and a DV there. It's very simple. So it is an experiment, whether you like to say it or not. That's why it's called the Eddington experiment of 1919. And as for some of the stars moving away, yeah, that's actually part of the predictions, because the stars do have their movements naturally throughout the night, but only the ones that were extremely close to our star, the path of the light coming from that star past our sun, only those ones were predicted to move a noticeable amount that would affect their normal movement. The other ones had movement that was more than the movement that would have been applied by the light from them passing near our star.
What is the difference between an observation and an experiment?
An observation could be an experiment if you make a prediction for a thing to happen at a particular time.
An observation can be an experiment.
Yes.
Wow.
If you didn't know that, that's fair enough. I understand that you've never studied physics stuff, but you learn these things when you study physics, that over time, things can happen. You change the position and the time, you go and look at that thing to see if that thing has happened. And if that matches your predictions, then voila, you performed the experiment. If it doesn't match your predictions, you've performed the experiment and you've failed to falsify or you actually falsified this in that case. But absolutely, making an observation at a particular time and place can be an experiment. Absolutely.
Okay, so observation and experiment are synonymous to you?
An observation can be an experiment.
I'll ask the question again. Are an observation and experiment the exact same thing, or are they different steps of the scientific method?
Observation is step 1 of the scientific method. Okay. Experiment is step 4 of the scientific method, but an experiment can be an observation of a particular thing happening. That would be the prediction. The prediction you would make is, if my hypothesis is correct, then I predict that at this particular time, we will be able to observe the path of the light from a star being bent. That's the prediction. The experiment is going to that place at that time and testing that prediction by setting up your equipment and monitoring what has happened. Most of science is just monitoring things and see if it matches predictions. And that's exactly what they did in the Eddington experiment and every other similar experiment that's been done since then. The fact is, it was a prediction, and they formed an experiment based on the prediction to see if it matched the hypothesis. It did. They analyzed the results, and they found they failed to falsify their hypothesis. The scientific method.
Okay, so you would agree with my hypothesis of unicorns. It would be just as valid if the assumptions that I make for the tending of the light towards the sun, it would be just as valid as the bending and warping of spacetime, right? If all the math worked out and we tested and over the math worked out with the unicorns pulling the light towards the sun, it'd be just as valid as yours, correct?
You can call it unicorns, whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you call the thing. The fact is, the experiment is something is warping the path of light. You can call it unicorns. We call it spacetime. If you want to perform an experiment based on the predictions of unicorns, then that's great. Then we can analyze those results. But you tell me, what would the predictions of unicorns be?
Obviously, it's a hypothetical. It's obviously a hypothetical. So all I'm trying to show to the audience is that my reference frame and my assumption of why the light tends towards the sun would be equally as valid as long as the math works out. Craig, do you think math is descriptive or explanatory?
Well, before we get there, we talk about what you've just said. Again, you need to have a hypothesis and a prediction and an experiment. If you've got that, you're doing science, right? But if you're just saying unicorns did it. In what way did unicorns did it? Just saying unicorns did it isn't a hypothesis.
They bent the ether towards the sun. The unicorns were grabbing the ether and bending it towards the sun. Is that better? Does that help?
And do you have a prediction based on a mathematical model for this to happen?
I could come up with it using the law of gravitation, which is just a math model. Sure.
Right.
So you're saying it's interchangeable. So you admitting that you can interchangeably put space-time or unicorns in the equation shows that you have no evidence for space-time. That's all I'm trying to get across to the audience.
Whatever you want. You can name space-time whatever you want. From now on, I'm going to call it Felicia. All right. Cool. The warping of Felicia is what causes the gravitational effects. There we go. How's that? I predict that the warping of Felicia will bend the path of a light. The light path of a star towards our sun. So I'm going to make a prediction based on the maths of Felicia and do an experiment. Oh, look, the warping of Felicia has done exactly what I said it to do. It just happens that all of the maths and everything around Felicia is also the same as the maths for space-time. It doesn't matter. I've just changed the name of the thing. Changing the name of something doesn't matter. You can call it what you want, but the mathematical model shows that this thing, unicorns, space-time, Felicia, whatever, is warping based on the interaction of large masses. That's what it shows.
So you're admitting that the framework of Felicia warping the light to go towards the sun is just as valid as space-time, right?
I've just changed the name of space-time. All of the maths, everything about Felicia is exactly the same as Einstein described space-time. It's exactly the same.
Let me ask.
Hold on. The only thing I've done, the one single thing I've done is I've changed the name space-time to Felicia. Now, change anything apart from the name. All of the maths is exactly the same.
So if it's interchangeable, all the things that you said about the observations does not substantiate that a fourth dimensional fabric of space-time exists and warps light, massless light, where gravitation's only supposed to act on mass. So you've substantiated nothing. I asked for evidence of space-time warping, a fourth dimensional fabric, and you said that it's completely interchangeable, whether you call it unicorns or whatever you call it. So would you admit you have no evidence that space-time is a physical thing that warps in the presence of mass? And it could be anything?
Absolutely not. It's the Eddington experiment in 1919 and experiments similar to it demonstrate exactly what we have expect. Not only that, but we can move to modern times and look at the LIGO experiments, which also match 100% the predictions of the warping of space-time. Or
how much is the fringe shift? How much is the fringe shift? How much is the fringe shift at LIGO?
Of what? Of the fringe shift in LIGO within the
of the lasers?
Yeah.
How much is it?
Within the margin there.
That's not an answer. Can you give me like a size? Like, can you give me a measurement of how much the laser changes? How much?
I'm not sure the exact amount off by hand, but I remember it's within the margin of error of the machine.
So you don't know the amount that the fringe shift happens, but you just believe that it.
No, no. Again, I don't believe anything. I've looked this up and researched this before.
Then why don't you know?
Because I don't have an eidetic memory. I don't remember every single thing I ever look at ever.
If you're going to provide it as evidence, you should probably remember it. Don't you agree?
Well, no, because I've got the internet and I can just look it up and show and get that information for you. Having an eidetic memory and remembering every little detail of everything is irrelevant to a conversation like this. Just because you can spout off a bunch of stuff proves nothing. The evidence that can be presented is the important thing, not memorizing a list of things.
I'll give you your answer. It was the width of a proton.
Which was within the margin of error of the machine.
So how do we know that that laser moved because of the gravitational waves affecting it from black holes and not something like magnetism? How do we isolate gravity in that apparatus? How do we do that, Craig?
Again, we make a prediction. This is what we're doing here. We're predicting that if something happens, then we will be able to detect that this thing has happened. Okay, so it'd be just as valid for me to say that because electromagnetism is a form, light is a spectrum on the electromagnetic, wavelength, right? It's essentially electromagnetic radiation, right? You would agree. That's what light is, yes. Okay, so how do we know it's not from the perturbation of the magnetic field that's coming from the Earth changing and moving the light? How do we, if we can't decipher that it's gravitational waves or magnetism or electrostatics or some other phenomena of the ether causing the fringe shift, you cannot ad hocly assume that it's gravitational waves from black holes. Do you see the problem here? If we can just make predictions and say, oh shit, well, actually, the gravitational waves do this amount of fringe shift. And I could say, okay, well, actually, the difference in the magnetic field relative to the perturbation source would be different, causing this exact same fringe shift. Either claims are equally as valid, is exactly what you're saying. So there's no way to prove that the fringe shifts that happen at LIGO are caused by gravitational waves, right? Oh, so you're talking about the actual fringe shifts of it detecting, not the the normal fringe shifts of it within the margin of error. Okay, sorry, I was confused by what you meant, the way you phrased it. Yeah, so the actual detection of the gravitational waves comes from a prediction. When we see something happen, we predict something will happen, and then we test to see if that thing will happen. For you to say, oh, well, it's just as valid as saying it's the perturbations in the Earth magnetic field, well, that would be something you would have to substantiate by measuring the perturbations of the magnetic field of Earth and seeing if they happen at the same time as the measurements of the gravitational waves from black holes colliding.
How do you measure gravitational waves?
Well, LIGO's doing that.
How is it doing that? How's it doing it?
measuring the space warping from the gravitational waves which are traveling out at the speed of light from the large collision of two masses.
How is it measuring the gravitational waves that are coming at the speed of light? How does a laser do that, Craig? How does it do it?
Those gravitational waves warp the actual that the light travels down the LIGO arms. So when the light goes and comes back, well, we know takes to get there and back because light travels at a certain speed in a vacuum, and when that changes, we know what speed light travels in the vacuum. It's 100.
Have we measured the one-way speed of light?
Well, no, we can measure the return speed of light. It's fine. That's absolutely
so valid. If it's going in one direction and coming another direction, how do we know it didn't go 75% and 25% in the way back? How do we know? How do we decipher that?
Mechanism for that to be the case, and it doesn't match any other observational data. But excuse me, we know the total time for it to take to get there and back, right? The total time is what's important here, not the one-way time, the time there and back. And when that total time changes, matching the predictions of what we expect to happen from a collision of large masses like black holes, then that's what it's detecting based on our predictions. If you are saying it is from something else, like the perturbations of the magnetic field of Earth, then you would have to substantiate that, like I said, by measuring the perturbations of the magnetic field of Earth and seeing if that coincides with the fringe shift detected in LIGO, which matches the predictions of gravitational waves.
Okay, so how do we isolate that gravitational waves are causing the fringe shift in the interferometry equipment at LIGO? How do we isolate it? You can't just say, like, I hope you realize you saying that, oh, we make a prediction and that prediction is substantiated in reality, so that means my theory is right. If I make the same predictions with electromagnetism or the ether or anything else, and the predictions match the math that I create for the observation, my theory is equally as valid as yours. You have to isolate. You have to isolate the independent variable to show that gravitational waves are affecting laser equipment in LIGO. You have not done that, so you cannot say that that's proof of the bending and warping of space-time.
Okay, so again, you just said a bunch of things saying, oh, it's equally as valid if I have this math. But the thing is, the mathematical model that you are suggesting doesn't exist. The mathematical model that LIGO uses that shows that it's gravitational waves does exist, and the predictions that we can make from that happen to match the experimental data that we get from LIGO. And the way that you isolate the gravitational waves is by making a prediction of the thing the gravitational waves will do. If gravitational waves are real and happening, then they will do this to the interferometer experiment. That's what you do to see if that happens based on your prediction. You isolate other things like electromagnetism by measuring to see if there's electromagnetic interference. You isolate atmospheric interference by putting the LIGO in massive vacuum chambers. The thing that you are not isolating is the thing that you're testing for. You're seeing if that matches the predictions. That's how you test for it. I mean, with all due respect, Caleb, I don't know if you've ever performed a scientific experiment because you seem to be getting the process slightly backwards. And
I don't think you have either. So you saying that just because it matches the predictions does not substantiate whatever fairy tale you're trying to produce to the audience, okay? So saying that, oh my gosh, the lensing of the gravitational waves caused the interferometry equipment to move one width of a proton. Nobody has any videos of this. No, you haven't seen it in real life. You haven't gone to LIGO and seen this. You're just a bunch of people in white coats that have produced information to the public. You're just reading it and regurgitating it. So I think this is becoming circular. I think that I've made it very obvious that if I did create a model of a prediction from electromagnetism or some type of ether effect, and it was validated by observation and showed the fringe shift at LIGO to be the exact same, my theory would be equally as valid as yours, not proving that the bending and warping of space-time exists.
there's the thing, Caleb. If that existed, and if you could make predictions based on that model that existed and perform experiments based on that predictions, then you'd have a point. But it doesn't exist. It never has existed. And with all due respect, I don't think you're going to come up with an entire mathematical model that explains everything, including the detections that LIGO make. All you've done is you've not understood. You demanded in our X conversation that it be based on the scientific method, but you seem to be ignoring the scientific method.
You're not using the scientific method.
Observation, hypothesis, experiment, analysis. That is the scientific method you learn in high school. You make a prediction from your hypothesis, and then you test prediction.
You observe a natural phenomena. You observe a natural phenomena. Just because you made a prediction and said, if gravitational lensing happens like this, then LIGO would move this much, does not substantiate the gravitational wave.
Prediction from your hypothesis, and then you test prediction.
You observe a natural phenomena. You observe a natural phenomena. Just because you made a prediction and said, if gravitational lensing happens like this, then LIGO would move this much, does not substantiate the gravitational waves exist in the form of affecting laser equipment. You have not substantiated it. The audience, I think we'll leave it up to the audience. It's very obvious that if we did create a mathematical framework that exactly replicated the friendship that we see in LIGO, then we could have equally the amount of same validity to our theory. So you've in no way, shape, or form validated. That space-time is a fourth-dimensional fabric that can be bent, affecting light or affecting lasers. I just want to make that very obvious to the audience.
You can make that claim, but the experiment does validate that position.
No,
That's what the experiment does. Well, you can say it doesn't, but NAA has no power here. All right. The experiment is from
positive.
If you don't
Hold on.
Let Craig finish. Craig was answering you. Go ahead, Craig.
If you don't like scientific method and the outcomes of the scientific method, then please don't demand to base a debate on the scientific method.
Does the positive claim or the negative claim have the burden of proof, Craig?
In what context?
This is basic logic. You don't know? You don't know the answer?
Okay, so I've been muted when I've been talking. I've just realized that because I looked at the chat. Don't. So annoying. I'm tired, guys. All right, leave me alone. Don't bully me. Yeah, right. Basically, what I was saying was it's hilarious that he doesn't want to use the scientific method when he demands the scientific method. It's brilliant. I mean, he gets so much wrong in this debate. It's fantastic.
Answer?
It really does depend on the context. It's not always.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Does the positive claim or the negative claim require the burden of proof? Which one?
It's not always so black and white.
Okay, in what situation does the negative claims have to substantiate the burden of proof? What situation? Please name one.
On the context, all right? In general,
name one.
Right, in general, yes, the positive claim of something would have a burden of proof. But logic isn't quite as black and white as that. When you like do debates professionally,
one example. One example where the negative claim has the burden. One example.
When you're asking someone to prove, like if you've made a claim of something and then someone says, "Oh, that's not true," and then someone says, "Oh, you have to prove that that's not true," then you can't prove a negative, or you anyway. In general, yes, you're right, is what I'm saying, right?
Do you have one example, please? One example.
Right. I'm saying in general, you're right. Okay. So what is?
I want one example where, because you're saying it's right. Sometimes it shifts to the negative side. That is not logic. That is not reproducible.
It's not.
Hold on.
Quite,
can I get my point out?
let's just move on. What is your
No,
point?
no. We're not going to just move on from that. I need you to concede that the positive claim always has the burden of proof. If not, I'd like one example.
Yeah. Again, it's not quite as black and white as that, but for the purposes of the conversation, in general, that is the case. So, yeah.
It's always the case. You don't have one example. Correct?
Yeah, it's not quite as black and white as that. But anyway, what's your point?
Because you...
All right, I'm not muted, am I, guys? Someone says I'm still muted, but I'm not.
are making the positive claim that gravitational lensing is affecting interferometry equipment, causing fringe shifts. You have the extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You can't just say, oh, the math works out. The prediction from the people at LIGO, it is the exact same. So that proves the gravitational waves are affecting laser equipment. You haven't isolated any variables. You haven't showed that gravity waves even exist. There's so many begging the question fallacies baked into every single sentence that you say. I don't think that you understand.
Okay, so again, what you're doing is just dismissing the scientific method, which is the thing you demanded. The scientific method is prediction experiment.
I have the negative claim. I have the negative claim. You have the positive.
Positive claim has been substantiated. The positive, if gravity waves exist, this will happen. That was the positive.
You can't just say if gravity waves exist, this will happen. You have to prove gravity waves exist. How do you prove gravity waves exist?
Hypothesis. It's a hypothesis based on the observations of the universe and Einstein's calculations. It's a hypothesis based on the mathematical model. So we make a prediction based on that.
Is math descriptive or explanatory?
If Einstein has said something, his maths of relativity says that a certain thing will happen, and our observations of the universe are such, and we are using Einstein's mathematical model to form our hypothesis that says that gravity waves will exist. It's within the maths of relativity.
No, that's not how the scientific method works, dude. Oh my gosh.
It is because the hypothesis is an educated guess, right? So let's just say observation, again, is the summit accelerates towards the ground on Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared, right? My hypothesis of that is that mass warps space-time according to the mathematical model put forward by Einstein, right? That's my hypothesis, okay? And if that is the case, if my hypothesis is true, then the prediction is that there will be gravitational waves formed by the collision of large masses like black holes.
Okay, this is becoming extremely circular.
I agree.
Yeah, let me finish my point. Right, that is my hypothesis.
Same thing over and over.
Let him finish though.
Hypothesis, whether you like it or not, that is the prediction from the hypothesis. And if that is the prediction, the experiment is to see if gravitational waves exist. Then the way that we would see if they exist is they would affect this equipment in this way, according to physics. We do the experiment, we analyze the results. The results fail to falsify the hypothesis of mass warping space-time according to the mathematical model put forward by Einstein. That's it. Okay. And now, that's all I need to say on it. If you disagree,
is it my turn?
I think we did good. I think we exhausted that point. So
yeah, we'll move on. I just want to say this last thing before we move on. So Craig is saying that you can prove something exists if you make a mathematical model about it and it matches observations in reality. So somebody could equally go and assume that the laser equipment is being pulled by monkeys and being pulled in a certain direction, that the fringe shift is happening. And as long as the mathematical model works out, that substantiates that monkeys are pulling the interferometry equipment. He's proved nothing. He's not following the scientific method as expected, for sure. I already expected you to do this exact same thing. You're just talking a lot and talking in a sense that doesn't prove what you're claiming. You have to prove the physicality of gravitational lensing or waves affecting interferometry equipment.
Oh my God, guys. Just listening to him there, like, how much does he sound like the junior Witsit? He's like Witsit, right, but with less charm and less intelligence. And, there wasn't much to start with. And did anyone notice that I've been wearing a Star Trek Delta during this? And the reason was just to piss Kaleb off, because I watched one of his TikToks where he said that Star Trek is just indoctrination. So, of course I'm going to wear a fucking Star Trek Delta during my stream. Oh, guys, I've still got, like, an hour of this to go. I don't think I can cope. I already heard it once.
You've done nothing in that sort. You've just assumed, you've just begged the question, and you just making a mathematical model that is accurate does not prove gravitational lensing is affecting lasers. I think the audience can decide from the things that you've said and the things that I've asked that you did not do any of that. And also, mathematical models are not proof of anything. Math is descriptive, not explanatory. You must use English to explain anything that exists in reality. You cannot use math to definitively suggest the existence of any phenomena or claimed phenomena or physical thing in existence. You cannot use math. You must use words. So just because the math works out on the guess of the gravitational lensing affecting the lasers in no way, shape, or form substantiates the bending and warping of spacetime or gravitational lensing caused by black holes hitting each other. Let's move on to the next point.
You do realize, Caleb, though, that there's no such thing as scientific proof, right?
You don't think that the laws of thermodynamics prove that high-pressure systems seek low-pressure systems? Saying that science doesn't prove anything is the most illogical. Hey, I'm talking. Are you just going to talk over me? You good?
I just wanted you to be aware that in science, there is no... The concept of proof...
I don't believe in that. I think science does prove things.
I don't care what you believe, but there is no such thing as scientific proof. If
Cool.
you're trying to prove in science, then you're not doing science. You're doing pseudoscience.
What's the definition of pseudoscience, Craig?
Something that doesn't follow the scientific method. There's no proof in the scientific method.
I'm surprised that you could define that. Okay, so just because you assume these, let's move on to the next topic.
Let's
Tony,
move
I'll
on.
send
How
you
do
a
you
link.
exhausted that same thing? So go
Sorry,
ahead.
what?
So let's move on to the next topic so we don't just keep going on that same thing. Whoever
Yeah.
wants to bring up the topic, go ahead.
Okay. How do you prove the Earth's in motion when relativity assumes that you can't?
Well, relativity doesn't assume that you can't. It just assumes that particular experiments show that you can't.
Okay.
And which motion are you talking about? The motion around the sun or the motion around its own axis?
Do you actually claim that we can prove that the Earth is orbiting the sun?
All observational evidence would suggest so.
What observational evidence would suggest that, Craig?
All the satellites we've put out there, all the parallax of the stars.
Okay, don't scattergun. One at a time.
You asked, so I was going to give you a list.
Just one at a time. I'll destroy each point by point. How do satellites suggest we're orbiting around the sun, Craig? That's incredible. I've never heard that. I didn't hear what you said.
Because they can see it.
Because they can see it. So you have a video of us orbiting around the sun from a satellite?
There's videos in space that show the Earth and the sun doing the things that we expect them to do.
Where's the video?
Well, DirecTV had a good one for 24 hours.
Okay, just quickly go over here. As joining me is the illustrious PhD Tony. Probably should tell me I got something wrong because he's very, very
no,
good.
not at all. I'm just frustrated by the trajectory of the conversation in the sense that Caleb is right that if two theories produce exactly the same results, then they are equally valid. And the question then becomes: are there any observational data sets that can be used to distinguish between the two theories? That's where scientific interest would then focus. But it is fatuous to say that a theory that doesn't exist, has never existed, and there's no evidence for, means that given previous observational results are not consistent with the theory as it currently stands. This is an ass backwards way of approaching the topic of science overall. So
Generally, with
I
Flerfs,
realize
that's how it goes. Yeah, the problem was that he seemed to spend a lot of the debate trying to redefine science in a way that he wants it to be.
Yes,
and
my response would be to ask him, do the Royal Society agree with you? Does the there are plenty, does the American Physics Society agree with you? Where are these scientific organizations that agree with Caleb on how science should be done and what is or is not scientific? Because this is the issue. He is asserting that he is one of the few arbiters on the planet of what is or is not scientific, and he bases it on what he believes.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe that there's no such thing as scientific proof. Well, if you're ignorant of the work of Karl Popper, why are you even daring to voice an opinion?
Yeah.
I have some problems with Popper, but given that he had asked you to define what anti-science was, well, what pseudoscience was, he should have been familiar with the demarcation problem, which is where do you draw the line between what is scientific and what is unscientific. If he's going to wade into this, he needs to inform himself. And his main argument is there's a lot of evidence out there that, like a lot of flat earthers, he's completely ignorant of. So being ignorant of the body of evidence allows him to make up what he wants. And he rejects any suggestion of, well, if that was true, we could look here. We have looked here, and this is what we found. We have verified Newtonian physics by gravimetric mineral surveying. We have verified gravitational time dilation in experimental settings on Earth. Over spatial separations as small as 1 millimeter. This is all the evidence we need to demonstrate that. But I was just getting frustrated, and I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't have a great point to come on.
No, I understand.
But
the problem is that he is trying to say that, well, he like I said, he's right. If two theories are give the same result, then they're equally valid. But he's not even giving a theory. He's just making something up and saying, well, that's just valid then if I say it could make a prediction. Well, show me the prediction based on a cohesive model then, But that's very different to just saying, well, I say unicorns.
For example, his proposal that that LIGO could be the result of the apparatus being manipulated by monkeys. Well, we could test that, right? If that is the case, there should be some monkeys near the LIGO installations, so we can go and look, and we can see: are there any monkeys there? Are there any? Is there any monkey scat? Is there monkey fodder? Are there monkey fingerprints on the apparatus? We can test this. We can investigate it. The idea that you can pull some alternate explanation out of your ass, that's true of everything.
Yeah. That doesn't make an equally valid hypothesis.
Yes, it doesn't make it an equally valid hypothesis, and it doesn't make it equally consistent. We came up, Einstein came up with this theory, and he had 3 observational validations of it. One was the precession of Mercury, which had already been observed, and his theory explained. The second was the Eddington experiment, which, as you rightly point out, has been replicated many, many times.
Yeah.
And also, he was completely wrong about the idea that on the plate, the stars should be moving closer to the sun. That's actually the opposite of what should happen. The stars should appear to be further away from the sun as they move behind it, because the angle. If this is the sorry, I've got to move my hand the right way. If this is the star and this is the light coming to it and it's bending down, to us the star looks like it's out there. It looks like it's further away from the sun. That's the sense in which. So he's saying he was saying that the Eddington experiment is wrong because things move away from the sun rather than towards it. That's what's supposed to be observed.
Yeah.
That's how we know that the results are correct. So he's read enough to sort of know what's on the plates, but he doesn't know what's supposed to be on the plates. That
makes sense, because he gets confused by refraction. He thinks that refraction bends things up instead of down, which would lift things up. So I don't think he can visualize in 3 dimensions how the bending of light down would make it appear higher. That's the problem here.
Well, I don't think you can visualize in 2 dimensions, because you only need to look at these systems from side on to reduce it to a 2-dimensional system. But anyway, this point that he keeps on going back to was just bugging the shit out of me. Yes, and if you had such a theory and it wasn't just a figment of your imagination, we'd perhaps give you the time of day, but you don't, so you're irrelevant.
You just made shit up and that was it.
Yes. So
Tony-
sorry, that was actually all I had to say.
That's okay. As
it
always,
was-
I appreciate your input. Absolutely.
All right. So
Got
sorry
an
for
hour
stream
left of
bombing
this,
you.
so I'm going to crack on with it. I'll speak to you again soon.
Okay. Take care.
Always great to have actual smart people on. Like I've said many times, Tony makes me better at my job.
If I show you a video
Who's
of
that
my
handsome guy
girlfriend
there?
dressed up as
Look at him,
Bigfoot
fucking
running around
gorgeous.
in a forest, does that prove that Bigfoot exists?
Why would you ask for the video to immediately dismiss the video? That is very dishonest.
Yeah, I want to just replay that a little bit to show you what he did
Because
there,
they can
guys.
see it. So you have a
listen.
video of us orbiting around the sun from a satellite?
Right, so he just asked me, do you have a video of that? Right?
Videos in space that show the Earth and the Sun doing the things that we expect them to do.
Where's the video?
Well, DirecTV had a good one for 24 hours.
I told him where I could find a video with DirecTV. Had a 24-hour live stream of Earth from space showing the rotation of Earth and everything. So he asked for the video. He asked where I could find the video, and I've told him. Let's see what he does.
If I show you a video of my girlfriend dressed up as Bigfoot running around in a forest, does that prove that Bigfoot exists?
Ah, right. So you demanded a video, demanded where to find the video, but then went on to say, oh, we can't look at videos because they can't prove anything. Why, Caleb? Why the actual fuck did you ask me for a video to instantly dismiss a video, you penis?
Why would you ask for the video to immediately dismiss the video? That is very dishonest.
Answer the question, Craig. If I show you a video, hold on, I'm talking. You're gonna. I know the start of my sentence interrupted the middle of yours. Okay. If I show you, answer the question, just yes or no. If I show you a video of admittedly my girlfriend dressed up as Bigfoot running around in a forest, does that prove Bigfoot exists? Yes or no?
Well, no, you've just admitted it's your girlfriend, so it wouldn't prove anything.
Okay, let's say it's not my girlfriend. Does it prove Bigfoot exists? It's incredible how you just avoid answering questions directly. How about a yes or a no? If I show you a video of Bigfoot, does that prove Bigfoot exists?
No.
Okay, so if you show me a video of the sun or the Earth supposedly going around the sun, does that prove we orbit around the sun?
It's evidence for it.
Does it prove it?
Science doesn't care about proof.
Okay, I already said I don't care if you think that we don't prove things with science. We do.
No, science doesn't have proof. There's no such thing. No matter what you say, there is no such thing as scientific proof.
Does the laws of thermodynamics, which is a science, prove that low-pressure systems seek high-pressure systems?
Well, that's not what it says. It says that entropy is always increase in a system that is reversible. But
Oh my god.
Cite me the second law of thermodynamics, please.
The second law of thermodynamics talks about entropy, that there's dissipation or there's entropy to systems over time, that they become...
You cite me the actual law.
Do I have everything memorized in my head, Craig? You remember when you said that earlier? Do you expect me to just memorize all the laws of thermodynamics? Can you cite it? Cite it. Cite the second law of thermodynamics, Craig.
Yeah, it says that entropy will always increase in an ice system, but it has to be reversible. That's what it says, and
it has to be reversible.
That we know is the entire universe. There is no other isolated systems.
How do we have a low pressure system next to a high pressure system, like our atmosphere, adjacent to each other, without a container?
We don't. That's a straw man.
We don't.
Topic change. He's just ruined me on that. I'm going to change the subject with a straw man.
No, we don't.
What's happening then?
We have a gradient of pressure. That's it. There is more difference in pressure between the base and the summit of Everest than there is the summit of Everest and the Kármán line.
Okay.
So there's no immediate evacuation of the high pressure to the low pressure. It just isn't happening. But there is categorically, in reality, a gradient of pressure that has been measured.
Can you show me a gradient of pressure of a pressurized system of gases and air without a container, Craig? Do you have one example of that?
Well, I've never said there's no container.
So you think there's a container to the Earth's atmosphere?
Well, everything is contained within the universe, and gravity specifically contains the Earth's atmosphere.
Is gravity a physical thing?
Gravity is something that can be measured.
Okay, I'll ask again. I don't know how you didn't answer. Is gravity a physical thing? Yes or no, Craig?
Gravity creates a physical force.
Gravity's not a force due to the general theory of relativity. It's no longer a force, Craig. You didn't know that?
Creates a force. I didn't say gravity is a force. I say gravity creates a force. And just so you're aware, both what Einstein and Newton say are actually the same thing. In fact, if you take Einstein's tensor, you can mathematically break them down to Newton's law of universal gravity in non-relativistic situations. They actually say exactly the same thing, just explained extremely differently. That's all. So let's just be clear about that. But anyway, sorry, I got distracted.
So you think mass attracting mass and bendy warpy spacetime is the exact same thing, or are they two separate theories?
They're two separate theories explaining the same outcome. Well, in
Okay,
fact,
that's not my question.
Never had a theory, actually, to be honest. Newton didn't propose a theory. Newton just had a law, which was a mathematical description of something that he saw happening. That was it. Newton, in fact, was very adamant that you don't push a theory because his math suggested that gravity acted instantaneously, and he didn't like that suggestion. Of course, Einstein came along and explained, no, it doesn't act instantaneously. It would actually act at the speed of light, which is why, under non-relativistic situations, both Einstein and Newton break down to exactly the same thing, the law of gravity, m1, m2 over r squared.
A mathematical model which doesn't prove anything or prove the existence of gravitation. It's descriptive, not explanatory. You must use English. Hence why we're talking about the two claimed theories that are written in English. We're not talking about a mathematical model. Everyone agrees that things seem to fall. Hold on, I'm still going. Hold on. Everybody agrees that mass falls to the Earth in a vacuum measured by interferometry equipment at an average from 9.77 to 9.83 meters per second squared.
I don't think he knows what interferometry equipment is. Because you don't use that to measure the acceleration towards Earth of stuff in a vacuum.
We agree on the acceleration rate. Now we must prove and isolate the cause for that. I would say that it's relative density, buoyancy, and electrostatics. Electrostatics decides the downward vector because our atmosphere is positively charged. So that positive charge is always seeking equilibrium with the negative charge of the Earth, which is negative to about 500,000 coulombs. So there's a constant seeking of equilibrium, a downpour of electrostatics to the Earth, causing the downward vector and deciding what goes up and down and which direction that is. Buoyancy and density works out the rest. Do you think that a helium balloon is an anti-gravity machine, Craig?
No, a helium balloon doing what it does is the predictions of gravity.
Why? How?
Because of buoyancy, which is also a prediction of gravity.
So could you replace the equation of buoyancy? Hey, I know you're about to rage. I know you're getting mad. Calm down. Could you replace?
Hold on. Let him finish that. let Craig finish that answer.
Ask your question. Would you like me to answer your question, Kaleb?
Finish it. Yeah, finish it.
Like talking.
Finish it.
Okay. So,
Rage.
the actual mechanical description of how a helium balloon rises when there is still gravity is very simple. The air, if you take the same volume of air as the balloon, there's more mass, more density in that area, okay? Which means that if you do the calculations for gravity, there is more force acting on the air than the balloon. That means all the air around the balloon is pulled down with a stronger force than the balloon, which creates a force in the opposite direction, directly perpendicular to the direction of gravity. That is buoyancy. FB equals rho VG.
The balloon goes up because it's less dense than the medium that encompasses it. It has nothing to do with the fake gravity assumption that you make. And if you look at the buoyancy equation, you can replace little g with little a, acceleration, and it all works out just the same.
Yeah, but that g is due to gravity, and gravity.
Yeah, Tony, I know the concept of you having to use words to explain things is ridiculous because relativity is literally explained mathematically. He
has been substantiated in many. So, well, you can say it hasn't, but it has. You just ignore the experiments and say that they don't do the thing that they claim they do. And if it was electrostatics, then... Sorry.
Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Give me 1 sec.
Not just electrostatics, by the way.
But if you're claiming that electrostatics is a large part of it, then that means there would be well, you said that it was a part of it, right?
It
Yes
just
or no?
decides the downward vector. Do you understand what I'm saying there? Do you need me to explain it to you?
And that would be a large part of it. The downward vector is a very large part of why things do what they do. But the downward vector would, if it's all to do with electrostatics, would have different forces applied based on the materials because of different charges. But also we can isolate things like that by measuring the charges of things and seeing if it's that. And also we can do experiments to see if gravity acts in the opposite direction to up and down, like the Cavendish experiment. The Cavendish experiment shows that mass attracts mass horizontally as well, matching the predictions of Fg equals gm1 m2 over r squared, so much so that you can actually calculate the universal gravitational constant when you do the experiment. And if it was electrostatics, according to your explanation, that would mean that the two masses, which are the same, would have the same charge and repel each other, except they don't, they attract each other. So it can't be electrostatic.
No. Does the Cavendish experiment always work every single time with 100% accuracy?
When it's set up properly, yes.
God, this comes from the video that Sleeping Warrior found that says that, oh, this Cavendish experiment is hard to set up. Oh, it's difficult to set up. And apparently that means that it doesn't work properly every time. But no, just because something's hard doesn't mean it's not working. If you set it up right and you're not a moron and you do the experiment correctly, then you get the results. And they're the same every fucking time.
How do you isolate electrostatics from the apparatus?
You check to see if there is electrostatics being, that you can put, for instance, if you put it in a box, you could put something that is susceptible to movement of electrostatic energy, like tissue paper hanging down, to see if it's moving at all, if there's any electrostatics in that box. But again, if it was electrostatics, okay, then the two masses, which are usually of the same material, would have the same charge. And the same charge repels, not attracts. But what we find in the Cavendish experiment, every single time when it's set up properly, is that the masses attract. They never repel. They always attract. If it was electrostatics, they would repel.
What is polarization in the context of electrostatics?
It would be changing the direction.
You don't know what polarization is?
Well, it would be changing the north to south. It would be changing the direction of the charge.
You think there's a north to south when talking about electrostatics? Seriously, Craig.
Magnetism. That's why I stopped saying north to south. I've said the direction of the charge.
What is polarization? And you can concede. It's okay to not know things, Craig. What is polarization when talking about electrostatics?
Yeah, it would be the direction of the charge.
No.
If you were to change
Not the direction of the charge. It's the flux of the positive or negative. It's the flux. And there's always polarization to matter. And every single piece of matter that exists in reality is electrostatic. And guess what?
And what, Caleb, what is a flux? It's a change. Right? It's a change in the direction. It's what the flux is. Exactly like I said.
Electrostatics is 10 to the 39th power stronger than the weak force of gravity.
Only at small distances. You always forget to mention that one. But again, you keep jumping over this point, Caleb, right? Let's assume that it is to do with electrostatics, that's what decides the vector. That would mean that in the Cavendish experiment, the thing that would decide the vector of the masses moving towards each other would also be electrostatics. But in the Cavendish experiment, the masses are the same. They would have the same charge, which would repel, right?
No. Hence why I'm telling you there's polarization.
Why not repel if they have the
same charge? Are you going to let me get my point? You want to hear? You asked me a question. You want to hear the point, Craig?
Would love to.
Okay. So there's polarization to grounded apparatus. There's still polarization, meaning that the electrons, the assumed electrons, which I don't believe in, are moving through the masses to the ground, so there's a constant
He doesn't believe in electrons, guys. I bet electrons are really sad about this fact. He doesn't believe in fuck's sake.
polarization, meaning a flux to the positive and negative charge, which changes based on the reference frame of the two masses that are supposed to be attracting towards each other. So they're not the same exact electrostatic charge at all times. There is a flux, which could cause them to tend towards each other.
But flux, a change.
Ground is
Brilliant,
neutral, though.
You think there's neutral in electrostatics?
When you ground the equipment, it's grounded. When you ground the Cavendish experiment, it's grounded to the Earth, which is neutral.
Okay. Yeah. No, the Earth's surface. Wait, hold on. You think the Earth's surface is neutral, or is it negative to 500,000 coulombs? Yes or no?
That wasn't my question.
Right. Okay. So I need to clarify something here that I didn't really get across very well in the debate. Is that right? The surface of the Earth is negatively charged. The inner of the Earth is positively charged. The Earth overall, the Earth itself, is neutral. It doesn't have any more positive charge than it does negative, or vice versa. So that's why this conversation is irrelevant, because that's why you ground things to the Earth, because that's where electrical neutrality is. Like, he thinks that the Earth cable goes to positive, dude. Come on, fuck's sake.
You can't answer my question with a question. You do know that grounding is neutral, right?
You do realize that the ground of the Earth is negative, right?
Question.
This is incredible, dude. Honestly, incredible.
So when you ground, right, you're talking to someone who's done engineering, and
you're not an electrician.
When you ground things, the Earth, the ground is typically considered at neutral or zero voltage. The Earth, the ground is neutral. That's why you ground. Yes.
The surface of the Earth is neutral to you or negative? Hold on, calm down, Craig. Before you rage, you're going to get clipped. You're going to get clipped.
Insanely confused that you don't understand that.
You're going to let me talk?
Is neutral.
You're going to let me talk now?
Please do. Try and
Simple question, Craig. Okay, keep yapping. You want to keep going? Keep yapping, Craig. Go.
Go, Kaleb.
Right. Guys in the chat, anyone that's worked with electrics, is the neutral positive, negative, or is it neutral? Is the ground neutral? Yes or no?
No, I'm waiting for you to explain to me how ground isn't neutral. You're changing all of electrical engineering here. Brilliant. Go ahead.
Here, Craig. Very simply, buddy. Is the Earth's surface negative or positively charged?
What's that got to do with grounding?
Holy shit. If you can't understand... I can't tell if you're rage baiting me with stupidity at this point.
You really don't... That green and yellow wire that comes out your electric meter, you don't understand that that's the ground. That's neutral.
Is the Earth's surface negative or positive, Craig? Answer the question.
You haven't answered any of mine, Kaleb.
All right, we can move past.
So you're going to avoid the question? Should we just move on?
Yeah, we can do that, but let's see if you both will answer the question. Just answer simply, Kaleb, whether or not grounding is neutral, and Craig, whether or not the ground of Earth is positive or neutral, or negative.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is charge and discharge. So it is discharging to the ground of the Earth because positives tend towards negatives. The Earth's surface, which has been measured by physics, you can look this up in the physics lectures of Richard Feynman, where he admits that the Earth's surface is negatively charged, hence why the positive of the atmosphere flows through the apparatus going to the Earth, discharging. There's no such thing as neutral charge. There's no such thing as the Earth being a neutral charge. It is a negative charge, so there's polarization to the apparatus where...
Again, the Earth as a whole is neutral. The surface tends to be negative, the inside positive. The Earth as a whole is neutral.
The flow of the electrostatics goes into the apparatus through the wire to the ground and discharges to the ground. This is very simple. Craig should understand this if he's such a smart physicist.
Okay.
No, was a physicist. Right. So, so the Earth's surface is generally considered to be electrically neutral overall, according to physics. And this is actually coming from the Feynman gave. Overall neutrality on a large scale, the Earth is electrically neutral, meaning has equal number of positive and negative charges. This is a fundamental principle in electrostatics. There are, however, local and temporal variations.
Okay, we can go on to the next thing. I don't know if you want to lead us, Craig. What topic you want to go to?
I'm happy for Kaleb to keep shouting out the things we want to talk about. This is fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed Kaleb.
Yeah, so I just
stupid
looked it
stuff.
up. I said, is the Earth's surface negative or positive? Negatively charged. The funny thing is, everyone else has the internet too, Craig. So I challenge everybody in the audience. Please just Google, is the Earth's surface negative or positive? And you'll figure out that Craig's just running around trying.
So, yeah, it's hilarious, right? He thinks that you type something into Google and the thing that it says is the answer to your question. Google's a search engine. Like, if you type into Google, is gravity a theory? It's going to bring you up some things that say gravity is a theory. Because that's what you've typed into Google. But when you actually look into is gravity a theory, the answer is just fucking no.
Trying to avoid this question.
So. Like finding one answer that Google was giving you before reading a paper or something.
Are you trying to say that I haven't read physics books? Are you me, Craig? Have you seen everything that I've read, all the literature that I've read?
You just said you just looked it up.
Yeah.
Actually,
right. Do you want me to share screen?
Yeah. I'm because I've just searched the same thing. And I'm guessing you've seen this thing that says negative. The Earth's surface charge is negative, which is on something from Wikipedia about atmospheric electricity, right?
Here, let me just share screen real quick. I got you, Craig. Don't worry, buddy. Yep, I'm sharing screen if you'll pull it up.
Sure.
Is it up?
Yeah, go
ahead.
We
good?
Yep.
Is the Earth's surface negative or positive? Negatively charged. Done. Boom.
Yeah. I think if...
How do you feel about that, Craig?
That's fine.
I mean, concede that you were wrong?
Well, again, just looking at a Google search doesn't show anything. If you read the actual papers, you find out that overall, on a large scale, when you take the entire Earth into account, it's electrically neutral because there's an equal amount of positive and negative charges. But
so you're saying
there are temporal variations that can tend toward the negative side.
Cool. I'll leave that up to the audience. I think I've substantiated my point. Okay. So I'd like to hear again, how do we know we're, other than assuming that videos from satellites suggest that we're orbiting around the sun, do you not agree with Einstein that there's no optical or terrestrial experiments to suggest we're moving around the sun?
Yeah, again, he's literally just talking about things like the MMN, the Michelson-Morley experiment, interferometer experiment, and things like that. When you read the paper, with the things that he's talking about, he says that there's no optical experiment terrestrial that would be able to show that, and by that optical experiment he means like an interferometer. He doesn't mean there isn't other ways to show that the Earth is orbiting the sun. There are many ways to show that the Earth is orbiting the sun. You can dismiss satellites, that's great. If you want to just, I know it's something that flat earthers love to do, is just straight out dismiss evidence, so that's fine. We'll go without the satellites, but you can do simple like observation of the stars, the parallax of the star change throughout the year, to show that it is the observations and predictions of the Earth orbiting the sun.
Yeah. So what if they just, well, hold on. How do we decide, because the stars are changing over the course of the year, how do we prove that it's the Earth motion rather than just the stars moving? How do we do that, Craig?
Well, we could measure to see if the Earth's rotating. That answers that. And
no, we're talking about the orbit. Separate motions, Craig. We're talking about the orbit.
Oh, the stars moving show different things, but if you're talking about the stars' movements throughout the year, then to show that that's not the stars moving, we can compare it with other data like stuff from satellites and stuff. But you've already pre-dismissed all that. We could also go to experiment done in 1967 where they used radar to measure the distance to the sun and the fact that the Earth had moved a certain amount during the time that the radar being traveled to the sun and back. I will give the paper.
Okay, do you understand how many begging the question fallacies, including the speed of light, is in the statement that you just made. That is just saying that we've shot radar waves out to the sun and they came back, and it's a predicted amount of time that it took them to came back. We don't know the speed of light, Greg. That's going to keep coming up if you keep assuming it.
But it's not assumed. The speed of light is about 180,000 miles a second.
Have we measured the one-way speed of light?
We've measured the return speed of light. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. You don't think that measuring the one-way speed of light is important to claiming the speed of light, Craig? Seriously?
No, we can see how long it takes to get somewhere and back. There's no reason it would change. You would have to give a reason for the change in speed over distance. But anyway.
Incredible.
Anyway, you keep saying, I love that flat earthers constantly go, well, it's a fallacy, that's a fallacy, that's a fallacy. Are you aware of the fallacy, Kaleb, that says even if an argument may contain fallacious reasoning doesn't mean that it's wrong?
Well, this one is wrong because you have not substantiated the speed of light, hence why you can't from assuming radio waves and their propagation rates to being returned back to the Earth. So if you can't prove the one-way speed of light, it could be going 75,000 miles per hour in one direction, and it could be going 90,000 miles per hour in the other direction. You can't prove that. There's no way to substantiate it, hence why it's very necessary to measure the one-way speed of light, and current physics is addressing this.
Again, physics is about making assumptions, and science is about making assumptions and testing those assumptions through the hypothesis. I know that you don't like this, but that
it's not the scientific method. That's only two parts of the scientific method. You need to follow the entire thing, buddy.
Literally is an assumption, and I'm the only one that through the entire thing. You ignore the experiments.
I'm not ignoring the experiments. I'm debunking them.
No, you haven't debunked anything. You've
okay,
failed.
So you say. To prove the Earth orbits around the sun, we look at the stars and see their motion, right? That's what you said, right, Craig?
Evidence that suggests.
Oh my gosh!
We look at all evidence together. That's what you do with science. You look at all of the evidence presented and come to a conclusion. And all of the evidence together, including all the evidence of looking at the stars and the movements, all the evidence of using radar to measure the distance to the sun, all the evidence of everything that we can see and throughout science, put it all together and we come to one conclusion. We don't just look at one thing and use that. We look at everything all together. So yes, the lights in the sky moving, it could be evidence for one thing, it could be evidence for another thing, but we put that evidence in conjunction with all the other evidence. And luckily for flat earthers, you guys get to pre-dismiss anything from space, which is very handy for you.
Because you can't have a vacuum of 10 to the negative 17 torr adjacent to a pressurized system. You can scream gradient as much as you want, but again, I'd love to see you show me a pressurized system of a gradient without a container. Do you have one example of that, Craig?
There again, I don't say there isn't a container. Gravity is a container. You keep straw manning me.
Holy
right?
shit!
Here's the thing. We know we have measured physically that at Earth's surface at sea level there's 14 psi, and then once you go up, say 38 kilometers, we have measured.
The argument in question. The argument in question is
let him finish.
Rage.
Finish. No one's raging at you interrupting me whilst I'm trying to talk.
Okay, let's go.
Because you're going off on non sequiturs and red herring fallacies.
Again, you going to let me talk, or do you just want to not let? Because that's another way flat earthers love to get over evidence.
Just
by
go.
Not letting me talk.
Go.
Right. So
go, Craig.
We know that there is a pressure of 14.7 psi, and we know that when you go up to say 38 kilometers, that there is a pressure of about 10 to the negative 11 torr. That exists. That's all we're claiming. What reality shows us that there is low pressure up there and high pressure down here. Nothing else.
Prove gravity is a physical container.
Gravity affects all mass.
That didn't answer the question. I'll ask again. Prove gravity is a physical container that contains gases. Go, Craig. That'll be awesome for you to do.
Gravity affects all, and again, science doesn't prove things, but gravity affects all mass.
Do you think that's answering the question which I'm asking you to substantiate? Do you genuinely think you're doing it right now?
Gravity affects all mass. It creates a force that's proportional to the product of two or more masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them.
Okay, nobody cares.
Calculations for mass to show that it is affected by gravity. If gravity affects gas, then that's exactly what happens. You would have to show that something else is creating the pressure gradient because it matches the predictions of gravity. And what you are doing on the fallacy route is using the fallacy of specificity to get a specific thing that is outside of the realms of science.
Okay, so you can't substantiate that gravity is a physical container? Just yes or no?
Yeah, but I can. Every experiment for gravity, it does what we expect it to do. I'll just cite the gravity showing that mass attracts mass.
It does what we expect it to do. So just assume that it's a physical container. Incredible, Craig. Honestly. Honestly, incredible.
Experiment ever for gravity shows that mass attracts mass the amount that we predict that it does.
It shows an acceleration rate, and then you assume the cause of that acceleration rate without any evidence.
Well, no, all the experiments are evidence. You can just ignore the experiments all you like, but the experiments match the predictions of gravity. And we can show that it's not just an acceleration towards the ground, but it's an acceleration between any two masses. You can look at Cavendish experiment. You can look at the Schehelian experiment. You can look at the Pound-Repka experiment. You can look at the Edison experiment in 1919, or in thousands of other
Already destroyed all of them.
You've never destroyed any of them. You've misunderstood them. That's the difference.
We'll leave that up to the viewer. Would you admit that every single observation from the Earth looking at the cosmic microwave background or the sky suggests that we're at the center of all creation?
What's that got to do with the shape of the Earth?
It's got to do with the Big Bang, which has to do with how the Earth became about.
Shape of the Earth.
So you don't want to answer the question?
I thought the conversation.
Okay, how about this? Let's debate globe Earth versus flat Earth. Is the horizon apparent or is it geometric, Craig?
That's a question that's poorly formed. The horizon is a physical thing.
I'll ask again, Craig. Pick one of the two. Is the horizon okay? I'm talking. Are you just going to talk over me every time?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm asking the question again, Kaleb, because I explained to you it was a poorly formed question.
It's not though. That's just a personal opinion, which is dumb.
But it's a poorly formed question that I can't answer because it doesn't make sense. The question itself.
Can you wait? Hold on.
Craig, horizon is just what it is. The horizon is a physical thing.
Moderator's trying to talk.
Just repeat what the question. Repeat what the question was that you said is not answerable. Just so we know what you're talking about. What question did he ask that's unanswerable?
Mm-hmm.
Said, is the horizon geometric or apparent?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the definition of geometric?
Why'd you just keep going?
I did it again, didn't I? I muted myself for fuck's sake.
Yo, Craig.
I keep doing it because I was having a little bite to eat because I haven't hit my protein goals yet today, and I keep muting myself while I'm eating so you don't get noises, and then forgetting to unmute myself. For God's sake, I suck at this.
It's crazy because McToon can answer this question, but this is a complete death blow. Hey, I'm talking. Hey, buddy, I'm talking. Hey, just calm down, little buddy.
Keep going.
Okay. The horizon being apparent or geometric is a complete debunk to your model. Hence why you are avoiding answering the question. I will ask again, Craig, and we'll see everyone will watch you squirm. Is the horizon a geometric, let me just define it for you, a physical location, or is it an apparent location that fluctuates based on temperature differentials and atmospheric conditions? Pick one of the two, Craig, or let's see you squirm.
You finished ranting?
He's done. You asked your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the horizon is a physical thing. What we see is the light coming from the horizon, traveling through it.
You guys see how... I'm not muted yet, good. Like, you all see how triggered he got there, right? Like, he was so triggered during that rant he just had. That was quite funny.
A medium of varying density and temperature. The horizon is always the horizon. The position... actual physical position of the horizon never changes. Unless you change your altitude physically, exactly, but if you are in one position and looking out at the horizon, the physical location of the horizon never changes. However, the path of the light coming from the horizon.
Does he actually think that refraction physically changes the position of the... Jesus, man.
Can change depending on the variables of the density and the temperature medium that it's traveling through.
So do we ever see the physical horizon because the light is always being bent because of atmospheric conditions and temperature differentials? So you're conceding that it's apparent, correct?
No, the horizon isn't apparent. The horizon is the thing. What we see is the light from the horizon traveling through changes its path.
I can't, dude. The amount of wizardry that you do to not answer questions is exactly. Hey, I'm talking.
Wizardry. I'm a wizard, guys. Explaining how light works and seeing works makes me a fucking wizard, apparently. Oh, brilliant. Oh, you're a wizard, Harry.
Talking, buddy. Hey, I'm talking. No need to rage and cry. I'm talking. Let me get my point out. The amount of... Hey, calm down. Are you ready, Craig? You ready to sit and be still and listen?
Found a simple statement, yes.
Okay, buddy. So you're saying that the light is always bent based on...
Sorry. I just watched South Park.
You good?
Go, Craig. I mean, go, Caleb.
I apologize. Sorry, Darren. I watched
I know
South Park.
you really don't want me to get this point out, but it's becoming very apparent. Hey, I'm still... Oh, dude.
I don't want to start using
set up
that.
a timer.
I don't want to
timer up. I want a timer up. I want a timer.
Craig, you cool
I
with
want
that?
a timer.
I wasn't even doing anything or saying anything. Like, he just freaked out for no reason there. I want a timer. I want a timer.
I'm just saying, I apologize.
I want a
Yes,
timer.
you
I don't
apologize.
care if you apologize. I don't accept your apology. I would like a timer
Okay, we
so
got
that
it.
Craig cannot interject.
Okay, I'm
when
gonna
I'm
give you
talking.
2 minutes, or you want 1 minute? I'll give you 1 minute.
Just
him
do 1 minute. 1 minute will be fine.
Okay, go ahead.
I can get the point out and destroy him in 1 minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So let me know when it's up because I can't see unless
Yeah,
it's
I'll
going to
restart
show
it.
me up on the top right now.
It will. You'll see it now. Go ahead. 1 minute.
Okay.
Transfer, and there you go. Now you got it. When you
Try
start,
not
I'll
to
start.
interrupt when I start talking, Craig.
I'll mute you for right now. Oops.
Yep, please do.
Sorry, I actually unmuted him. All right, go ahead. You see the
Laugh
clock?
anxiously all you want, Craig. Okay, so Craig is admitting that the light is always bent from the horizon coming to the viewer. So him admitting that the light is always bent and depends on atmospheric conditions as well as temperature differentials, which cause the light to bend in certain directions, is him conceding that the horizon is always apparent. It is not a physical location that can be found at the exact same spot every single day. The most basic of the basic globe earthers will admit this. And the clip that I was going to show in my introduction was McToon admitting this, saying that we never see the geometric horizon, but we always see the apparent horizon. We only can see the apparent horizon. So you saying that the horizon is a physical location and not apparent is so obvious, and the flat earthers are going to clip it up and share it with the world to show your incredulity of understanding why the horizon is where it's at.
Okay, time. Go ahead, Craig. I'm going to put you on. You got a minute to answer him.
Again, so this is hilarious. You see light, Caleb. That's it. You see light. That's what seeing is. Light coming into your eyes. The physical location of the thing that the light bounces off of never changes. All right? That's there. If I'm standing at the beach looking out at the horizon, the physical location of the horizon relative to my eyes will never change. Physically, the horizon is exactly where we expect it to be. But we see light. We don't see things. We see the light that has bounced off of things and come to our eyes. So the actual horizon is a physical thing. But the light that we see coming from the horizon has traveled through a medium that can change its apparent position. The horizon isn't apparent though, but the light that we see has traveled through different medium to change the apparent position. The physical thing is still there. It's never moved.
Okay, time.
So the horizon is physical.
Frankly, I'm upset that I had to explain that to an adult. Like, he is an adult, right? He's not just like a kid. Like, I had to explain that we see light. Like, is he still at school? Maybe he just hasn't got to this bit in physics yet. I'm not fucking sure. How long have we got? 30 minutes, Jesus.
Physical, guys, but it moves all the time. So the horizon, with what you're saying, dude, you obviously need to watch more McToon, and it's my time to talk. So just so you know, you shouldn't be trying to talk or anything like that. We split it up into minutes now because you can't let me talk. Okay, so him admitting that the horizon is apparent because we only see with light, like you said, Craig, if the horizon is changing based on the light going through the medium that is the atmosphere, you should never, ever claim that it's a physical location found in the exact same spot, because that's not reality, Craig. Just to let you know, you need to talk to McToon. You need to get in some more Discord calls with McToon and get on the same page with your other Globe Earth people, because this is 2015, Craig, this argument. I can't believe you're coming at this argument this way, saying that the horizon is always in the exact same location, but we don't see it because it's apparent. So you're saying the horizon is physical, but also conceding that it's apparent that it fluctuates based on temperature differential.
Guys, this is another human being, right? Someone that is apparently the same species as us, that can't figure out the difference between a physical location of something and an apparent location due to refraction. This is a fully grown human adult that thinks that the horizon physically moves because of refraction. I don't want to be the same species as him. I don't want to.
Because we view light and how that light goes through the medium that is the atmosphere. So the horizon is not always at the same location. When we observe anything in reality, it's apparent. It fluctuates. Incredible, Craig. Honestly,
Time.
I've never heard a Glober say something so crazy.
Have you finished? Okay, so again, the physical location doesn't change. The actual place it is does not move. Refraction doesn't actually change the physical location of things. It just changes the path the light has traveled. The horizon is still a physical thing in a physical location that doesn't change. Remove the atmosphere from the equation and you'll be able to see it. But we have an atmosphere, which means that the light coming from the horizon travels through that atmosphere and changes its path. But that doesn't change the actual position of the horizon, just the path of light that we see. That's it. The position, the physical position hasn't changed. Refraction can make everything move. If you look at a car parked, somewhere miles in the distance, refraction can make it look like that car's moving. But that car hasn't physically changed its position. It's still in the physical same position. Just the light that's bouncing off of it has traveled through a medium with varying temperature and density. That's it. Oh my God, you think refraction makes things physically move? Thank you for that clip.
I had to explain that to a person. I had to physically explain that to an adult, guys. Please, fucking help me here.
Okay. Let's go to a new topic. I think you've gotten past the.
That's brilliant. That's an episode of Flerfs Idiots just on its own. Thank you, Kaleb.
This is my minute to talk.
When you guys know what topic you're going to?
Can we do a conclusion on that topic? Because I feel like he got a conclusion,
okay.
and I'd like to say some things before we move on.
We'll do a minute each if you want to conclude.
They're ready.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay, cool. So Craig is saying that the horizon is geometric. He's saying it's...
Why can't you fucking Americans say my name properly? Craig. C-R-A-I-G. Not C-R-E-G. It's not Craig. Or Greg. Craig. It's like a really common name, guys.
It's physical, always found in the exact same location every day, but coincidentally at the same time saying that it's apparent because of atmospheric conditions. So we only see the apparent horizon, Craig. You're going to get clipped so hard. It's going to be awesome. We only see the apparent horizon because guess what, Craig? We live inside the atmosphere, buddy. There's no situation where you can remove all of the atmosphere. So it's always apparent. It always moves based on temperature differentials and atmospheric conditions. So you cannot claim that the horizon is a physical location. The definition of horizon is the apparent location where the sky meets the ground. I'll concede my last 10 seconds. I think.
Oh, it's the definition of a word. Therefore, that's exactly what it... Oh, for fuck's sake.
That makes it very obvious.
Okay, 10 seconds. I mean, a minute. When you're ready, Craig. I muted you, by the way.
Right, I've got a minute, you say?
Yep, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, so the horizon is a physical thing. On a sphere, there is an edge that you can see. Well, a sphere doesn't have an edge, obviously, but when you're looking at a point, you see the horizon, which is the effect of the fact that a sphere has a curve. And that position, that distance to the horizon from you doesn't physically change. That distance, that physical, measurable distance doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the path the light has traveled. If the medium that the light is traveling through has varying density and temperature, that means the light path will do weird things and you will see refractive effects. But what we see isn't the same as the physical thing because we don't see things. We see the light coming from things, and the way the light has traveled doesn't physically change the actual position of things.
Talking about light, it's a good thing that the light in Caleb's house is washing out his face. I mean, you don't have to see it.
Okay, time. Let's go to a new topic. I think we've expanded that one enough. Who wants to name a topic? You said you want Caleb just to keep naming them?
What time are we on?
I don't know what time we have.
How long did you want this to go, Caleb? But I know you didn't really have a particular amount of time in mind, but I'm happy, whatever.
Just do the hour 45. That'll be fine.
So, yeah, I'll start looking at the chat questions in like 15 minutes.
Okay. So does a Foucault's pendulum have an independent reference frame?
The Earth.
That's not an independent reference frame.
Well, it's in the reference frame, or it's in reference frames at the same time. Everything.
Can you define an independent reference frame?
Yeah, it's your reference frame compared to something else. So if I'm on a car that's moving 20 miles an hour and there's another car that's moving 40 miles an hour, compared to my reference frame, that car's only moving 20 miles an hour. If I'm moving 40 and it's moving 60, from my reference frame, that car's moving 20 miles an hour. A reference frame is something that is referred to as a rest frame.
An independent reference frame is a coordinate system or set of accesses that is not influenced by the motion of an observed object. It remains stationary.
It's a set of accesses, is it, Caleb?
Or moves at a constant velocity, allowing for a consistent perspective when describing the motion of other objects relative to it. So it's not an independent reference frame if it's connected to the surface of the Earth, right?
What's your point here?
You don't understand the point?
What is this supposed to be? Debunking something, or
the Foucault's pendulum? It doesn't have an independent reference frame.
No, I mean it's not supposed to. Its behavior illustrates the concept of a non-inertial reference frame in physics. It's like your questions don't make sense in the concept.
Is the spin of the Earth inertial?
Again, the things that you're asking don't make sense in the context that you're asking them. This is Foucault's pendulum, right? So what is your question about Foucault's pendulum? Because no, it's not. It doesn't have an independent reference frame in a strict sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a behavior of non-inertial reference frames. So where are you going with this?
Your incredulity does not invalidate my argument. Just because you don't understand the question.
I don't think he knows what incredulity means. Like, incredulity is like, if I was to say, oh, well, I don't understand that, so I don't, it's not true. But I'm not doing that. I am explaining a physical concept to him, which he's ignoring, and then saying that I've got incredulity. Words aren't his strong point, are they?
Question. Let's make it simple. Is the Earth's spin on its axial rotation, is the axial rotation of the Earth inertial at all latitude and longitude lines?
Is the Earth's spin inertial at all? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
You should probably stop typing and listen to the conversation, Craig, so you could focus up.
You're cutting out for me. That's why I'm struggling to hear what you're saying.
Is the Earth's spin...
Sorry, just one second. My chat in Discord say that my audio is degraded, and maybe that's why I'm hearing you slightly degraded. You're very screechy to me, so I apologize if I can't hear you completely sometimes.
Is the Earth's axial rotation inertial?
The question is irrelevant. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
So, if you can't measure an inertial system due to the laws of conservation of momentum, how can you claim that the Foucault's pendulum is measuring the Earth's rotation?
Well, the Earth's rotation is not literally an inertial reference frame, if that's what you mean. So this is what I mean. The way you're asking the questions doesn't make very much sense in the context of the things that you're saying them. It's like I'm having a conversation with someone who half understands the things they're asking, right?
Yeah, it was. It's like talking with somebody who has read every other page of a book, right? The questions he asks are like almost make sense but aren't complete questions and don't have the right context behind them, and you can't answer the questions that he's asking because he's not asking them in a way that is answerable. It's frustrating.
What's the definition of inertial?
The definition of inertial in what context?
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Are you
can't
joking?
just definition of a word. I mean, inertial can have many meanings.
Let me define it. I'll give you the answer that I was looking for. Inertial, Craig, for your information, means unchanging.
Okay, in what context?
The rotation of the Earth, Craig, the context of the conversation that we're trying to have that you're arguing from incredulity with.
Again, like the way that you're phrasing all these questions is so backwards. It's very hard to understand what you're on about.
Okay, I'll put it simply. I get you don't understand. I totally get it. You've been out of school for a couple of years. Let me explain it to you. I'm talking right now, Craig. Do we need to split it up into time intervals again, buddy?
We'll try to ask the question.
Not what you're saying, because you're not using like proper terms and context. You're just asking random that don't really have, proper answers in the context that you're asking.
Argument from incredulity. Just because you don't understand.
Yeah, right. I see people saying about this in the chat. Like, people are saying, oh, did Craig have help from his Discord server? Well, you know what you can do, right? You can just go to my Discord server and look. And you can see if people were giving me help or not. No, they weren't. They were just making fun of Kaleb. There's nothing here of me getting help from anybody. The only thing I noticed was when someone pinged me to say that my audio was bad. That was it. I can't even figure out where it was now. Yeah, up here. Right. There's people just that pinged me to say that my audio was bad. And that's it. My Discord weren't helping me at all. And if anyone disputes that, they're welcome to join my Discord and have a look through the chat log. I don't need help destroying a flat earther. Destroying a flat earther is as easy as breathing to me. And breathing's pretty fucking easy.
And my argument doesn't mean that it's not valid. So I'll ask it again, Craig. Is the Earth's rotation specific to a coordinate system at each longitude and latitude line inertial relative to the observer at said longitude and latitude line? Is it unchanging or is it changing?
The Earth's rotation is not considered to be an inertial reference frame.
Are you joking?
I don't know what your problem is here.
So you think that
an inertial frame of reference is one in an object either remains at rest or continues to move at a constant velocity unless acted on by an external force. So the Earth's rotation because it's rotating, there's, vectors accelerating, right?
No, it's inertial in your model. It's 15 degrees sidereal rotation, right? That's why the stars move at 15 degrees, east to west, all of them, right?
Can I ask a question real quick, Craig? Do you have a chat group that you're looking at that are answering questions
what are you
for
doing?
you? Because that's a little bit
Genuinely.
Someone pinged me on Discord to say that my audio was dodgy on the stream.
Okay.
Check. I was just asking them to check if I needed to change my settings.
I don't know. Go ahead.
So pretty much every other person would concede that the rotation of the Earth, it's definitely not rotating because all experiments have never measured any motion to the Earth, hence the theory of relativity's conception. But you saying that the Earth's rotation is non-inertial, how do you figure that it's changing? Is the Earth spinning faster at certain latitude and longitude lines? Does it spin faster for some reference frames or observers?
There's faster tangential velocities.
We're talking about one specific reference frame of one observer at one longitude and latitude line. I don't care which one you place it at. Hold on, let me get out the point because you're not understanding. If you place one person at the equator, is that person's measurement of the tangential velocity of the Earth's actual assumed rotation, is it inertial or is it non-inertial?
Right. It's almost like he's looked up the word inertial before the debate, but not the meaning of the word, Like, not the actual contextual meaning of the word. Like, no, the Earth's rotation is not an inertial frame of reference because there's acceleration involved in rotation, of course. And if there's acceleration, then it can't be inertial. Like, and I don't understand why he couldn't get that. Oh, wait, what am I about? He's a fucking flat earther. Of course he's not going to get it.
Tangential velocity, well, that would be inertial.
Yes, good. How do we measure an inertial velocity?
We're not measuring an inertial velocity. We calculate the tangential velocity based on the rotational velocity and the distance away from the center.
You didn't answer the question.
I did. I said we don't do it. I did answer your question. Maybe
What's the Foucault pendulum doing, Ben?
Measuring the Coriolis forces applied at different latitudes.
The Coriolis of forces applied at different latitudes.
Yes. If the Earth is rotating, right? Okay. I didn't realize you didn't know what the Foucault's pendulum experiment actually does, right? So
I heard you say it. I know. Don't act like I don't know. It's the cause. So it could be a What's the Machian principle? Can you steel man the Machian principle?
Well, yeah, it says that there would be a transfer of movement from something rotating above, but it also says that it would be minuscule compared to the actual forces involved in the actual thing rotating.
Did you know that Einstein wrote a letter to Ernst Mach admitting that if there was a shell-like structure over top of the Earth, sidereally rotating at 15 degrees per hour, that would translate a motion down to the Earth processing a pendulum? Have you ever read that letter, Craig?
He also said that it would be minuscule compared to the motions that we get from Earth.
Oh, look at him being a little Witsit clone, cherry-picking bits of words from Einstein, whilst ignoring, the rest of it, of course. Yes. I'm going to have to cover the Machian principle stuff more closely, because it's nothing like what they're saying.
So I don't care if he said it was minuscule.
So what he said would not match what happens with the Foucault's pendulum on Earth, and it would have been so minuscule, it wouldn't affect the actual measurements that we do get. So
why would it be minuscule?
I'm not sure. That's why he said. That's what he said. I'm not entirely sure that's behind the Machian principle, but that's what in the Machian principle, that the actual transfer of motion down to a pendulum would be extremely small. So it doesn't account for the difference in the drift based on your latitude. And that's what happens. Depending on your latitude on Earth, the Foucault's pendulum drifts a different amount, which matches the predictions of different Coriolis forces being applied at different latitudes. That's why you can use a Foucault's pendulum to literally calculate your latitude on Earth. It's a physical thing that you can do.
How do you isolate that it's not the Machian principle from the assumed axial rotation of the Earth?
Because the Machian principle is something that doesn't fucking exist. There is no rotating shell around us. So why would I have to isolate something that doesn't exist, you dipshit?
There's no prediction to base that on.
That didn't answer my question. How do you isolate it that it's not the rotation or the vortex of the ether and atmosphere processing a pendulum, like Einstein said, from axial rotation? How do you isolate it, Craig? Do you need me to define isolate?
Ether. Einstein never said to be a vortex or an ether or anything like that. You just.
Oh, he did. He did in an interview, actually.
He just made that up. He just made that up. Einstein never once claimed that there was an ether vortex. Ever. Didn't happen. Kaleb is a liar.
No, he never said there was an ether and a vortex. Never. So not in relation to the And again, the Machian principle, when he talked about the Machian principle, the amount of precession he said that it would make would be minuscule, tiny, and it would not match the predictions of the Earth rotating and applying Coriolis forces. What we get is an exact match for the predictions on Earth. Again, we're doing actual science here. You get an observation. Oh, look, the stars are going across the sky. What's my hypothesis? Earth's rotating. What do? We make a prediction.
Look at him. Get on with it. Yeah, you don't want to hear the science, Kaleb. I understand.
Yeah, you can keep doing that, Kaleb, but I'm still going to keep
Get
talking.
on with it. Finish.
Well, and I'm going to take as long as it takes, and you're going to sit there and listen, okay? So where we
All right, let's go back to the clock.
Look at the chubby little mouth laughing.
Say that if we are on,
let's go back.
He's got a minute. Go ahead.
And if we're on different latitudes, then we will get a different amount of drift based on the Coriolis forces applied. And when we do that and we test it with the experiment, we find it matches the predictions and fails to falsify the position of the Earth rotating. There is no experiment or prediction that can be formed to test some kind of ether or anything. There's no way to do science around that. I'm done.
Okay, Kaleb, you got a minute?
I won't need long.
Okay.
So basically, Craig has just conceded that he cannot isolate the Machian principle from the assumed axial rotation of the Earth. He's gone.
Matthew Forbes in the chat. Where is it? Someone said something that I wanted to point out. I think it was Matthew Forbes. Basically said that the fact that there's different rotation for Foucault's pendulum in the north and south hemisphere eliminates the possibility of Machian principle, and I thought that was a very, very good point. I think it was whoever it was in the chat that said that. Thank you.
In a very roundabout way, saying a bunch of crap that isn't relevant to the conversation. Oh, you can measure the latitude line and the longitude line based on the precession of a pendulum. I don't care, Craig.
Yeah, I know you don't care. I know that you don't care about facts and physics, Kaleb. I know that you don't care about the evidence that debunks a non-rotating flat Earth. I know that you don't care because you're a flat earther and truth isn't your game.
Craig, I don't care. It's not the phenomena that's in question. Coriolis of forces arise. It's what's causing
Coriolis of forces. What is he on about?
the Coriolis of force, okay? You must substantiate that it is the axial rotation of...
What does he say? I don't think he knows what the Coriolis is. Let me just listen to that again.
From the assumed axial rotation of the Earth. He's going in a very roundabout way, saying a bunch of crap that isn't relevant to the conversation. Oh, you can measure the latitude line and the longitude line based on the precession
saying it in a funny voice doesn't
I don't
debunk it.
care, Craig. I don't care. It's not the phenomena that's in question. Coriolis of forces arise.
Coriolis of forces. What is he saying? Coriolis of forces. What is he on about? That's not a thing, Kaleb. Coriolis of forces. And you literally have no clue what you're fucking talking about, do you?
The Coriolis of force, okay? You must substantiate
Coriolis of
that it is the
force.
axial rotation of the Earth beyond a shadow of a doubt.
That's what the experiment is for. That it demonstrate it, but that's not it. Demonstrate it more. Fuck.
Out to me and the viewer. You have done nothing but repeat your same shit script that you say to everyone, everywhere on every debate. You cannot isolate the axial rotation from the precession of the atmosphere and ether from the container that is containing our atmosphere, precessing at a sidereal rotation of 15 degrees per hour.
There is no ether. There is no vortex. There is no ether. There is nothing that you mentioned. So no, I won't do that.
Time.
I think it's going to only become circular from here.
I agree. So let's give. I'm gonna.
Now, just before we move on, one thing. All of the things about the shell and that would just, if it existed, it would maybe possibly do this. There's nothing to say that that's the case. So there's nothing to isolate. And again, there's no evidence to suggest that's the case. So there's no way to test it, which means that there's no way to form a prediction on it. So it would be pseudoscience. The actual thing of science is testing a prediction. And that is what is done with the Foucault's pendulum. You can dismiss it all you like, but it follows the scientific method like you demand.
No, it doesn't. You didn't isolate that the Earth's rotating.
No, it doesn't. Wow.
Just so people don't think it's unfair, because you did say you wanted Caleb to bring up all the topics. Do you want to get one in for yourself, Craig, before?
Oh, guys, this was my favorite bit of the debate. All right, like at the beginning, you probably saw it when he brought up the satire article. So I very much enjoyed doing this.
Well, there was thing. Oh, I did want to say one thing. Caleb, you did one of my favorite things that flat earthers do. And during your intro, you presented a satire article about gravity. And I just wanted to ask you why you did that.
What article?
The whole gravity is only a theory thing that you put up. That's a satire article, dude. You do realize that?
Hey, buddy, you realize that there's a difference between the theory of gravity and the law of gravitation, right?
No.
Wow.
Don't change the subject, right? You put up a satire article, and I want you to realize this, okay? I'm going to show it so everyone can see. This is what good old Kaleb brought up. Is this gravity? It's only a theory thing. Where it says it's the universal theory of gravity is often taught in schools as fact, when in fact it's not even a good theory. Blah blah blah. Right?
Can I share screen?
1 second. Go ahead, finish.
If you look here, this satirical look at only a theory. Okay, this entire article is a satire article making fun of people that try to disprove evolution by saying it's only a theory.
Cool. I'm about to debunk what you're saying.
It's so beautiful.
I'm still talking right now.
It's so
this entire
beautiful.
thing that you presented to say, look, Google shows is a
I'm going to give him a minute. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Please.
And I realize that. It's a satire article. That's what this conversation is about. Nothing else. You presented a satire article, Caleb. Are you aware of that?
Okay, you got a minute?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, Caleb, go ahead.
This was just
And
beautiful.
you have to unmute. I think I muted you.
Allow me to share screen, please.
Yep.
Is it up?
Yep.
Oh my god. Yeah, he goes to Google.
What does that say? Is gravity a theory? Yeah. I don't think I need to say anything more. I can see.
So to debunk me, he went to Google and once again brought up the satire article. Because if you type into Google, is gravity a theory? It's going to find you things that say gravity is a theory, because Google just looks at words that you type and gives you results. But his evidence is a satire article. Satire. I don't even think he knew what satire meant. It's just, it can't get any better than this.
The rest of my time.
Okay.
And one of those sources, Caleb, was a satire article.
Is gravity a theory, Craig?
No, there is a theory of gravity. Gravity is a theory.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done, dude.
Oh, look at him getting all laughy because he doesn't understand the difference between a theory and a scientific theory. Oh, bless him. It's adorable, isn't it?
Kill me.
This one is something that flat earthers struggle with all of the time, right? Gravity isn't a theory. There is the theory of gravity, which is but gravity isn't a theory as much as music isn't a theory. I studied music theory, all right? I took a driving theory test. There is a theory of electrical conductivity, all right? But these things aren't just theories. The theory is the explanation of the thing. The theory of gravity contains all of our knowledge of gravity, but that's not the same thing as the colloquial usage of the word gravity. If you are saying gravity is a theory because there's the theory of gravity, then you're also claiming that music is a theory and driving is a theory.
Okay, let me look at some of these super chats. Do you guys want to do a conclusion before we get to those?
Yeah, Caleb, welcome to go first.
Caleb, I'll give you guys, 2 minutes?
Sure.
Right. Well, that's all that it needs, guys, to be honest. The rest of it is just kind of super chats and, extra stupidity, really. But that's the debate, okay? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Caleb presented a satire article as evidence, guys. Satire. Satire evidence. It's the best Flat Earth can do, because Flat Earth itself is fucking satire. Wow. I've had a good time tonight. I was a little bit nervous about the debate because I was in, hostile territory. Over there, Flat Earther controlling debate against another Flat Earther, but I held my own and I fucking ruined him. He spent the entire debate just trying to get little gotchas with words and stuff, but it was irrelevant to the debate. He didn't try and counter any of my evidence. He didn't present any evidence for the Flat Earth. He didn't understand basic mechanical principles, and he presented satire as his evidence. Always amazing. Oh. Oto became a new member. Welcome to Scrappers. Thank you very much. Tim Tully for $5 says, if intelligence were gunpowder, a Flerf couldn't blow their nose. Justin Franks, who's been a member for 9 months, says Caleb is obviously a Witsit disciple. Yeah, Caleb is like a Witsit clone that didn't clone very well, and came out, with less charm and intelligence. PhD Phony for $5 Australian. So if we look at mountains every day and they change apparent position, does that mean they don't exist? Well, no, it just means the mountains are actually moving, apparently. Sparky NJ, member for 47 freaking months, says, I can't believe it's almost 4 years. My brain hurts. I know. I think Sparky was probably one of my very first members. Thank you very much, Sparky. Caucasian Sensation, member for 25 months. That's just over twice around the sun. But what about that one thing clone number 4.5 did? We don't talk about that. Okay? All records of clone 4.5 were removed. And you know why. JSS Tiger for $5 says, if Flat Earthers don't feel a burden to prove things, then the Flat Earth movement will die. It was never alive. Randomly Epic gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very, very much. Zachary Burns, a member for 15 months, says, baby Flerf. Do. Yeah, he was like a baby junior Flerf. Warboss for $5 Canadian says, wah! You debated Witsit Jr. Have some weeds for your brain ouchies. Thank you. I need it. It's a Rubik's for $2 says, here's some more NASA hush money to keep the lie going. Thank you very much. The help from NASA is amazing. Allows me to lie about the flat earth all the time. Kango44, 5 New Zealand dollars says, I'm surprised Caleb could say anything with Witsit's knob in his mouth. Boom. Kango44 for 5 New Zealand dollars says, I'm surprised Caleb could say anything. No, I just read that one. 3-1 for $5. Pretty petty super chat because Kaleb didn't want you to make money off the debate with him. Look at Kaleb's brainwash there. Yeah, considering he didn't want me to make money off of it, I've just got 71 new members and a bunch of super chats. Cheers, Kaleb. Caucasian Sensation $2 says Kaleb is Dunning-Kruger 3.14. Yeah, 100 fucking percent. I mean, between Kaleb, Flatzoid, and Sleeping Warrior, there is fierce competition for top left next year. Wolf Dances for $5 says, why can't Kaleb's Magic Dome move Pendulum at Equator and rotate opposite directions south of there? Because it doesn't exist. Kango44 for $5 New Zealand says, Kaleb is just a Witsit interchangeable clown. You're not wrong. Lord Luminous Pooh for $5 says, all hail Algorithmo, God of AdSense, and the Trinity of like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't hit the like button, then do so. If you get to 300 likes before the end of the stream, I'll dance naked. Jiffy Jiffbold gifted another 5 memberships. Thank you, Jiffy. I really, really appreciate you. Tau Software for $5 says, Kaleb used Apologetics 101, answering a question with a question and assuming your answers. Yeah, a lot of gaslighting as well. Lord Luminous Pooh for $2 says, so you do a second experiment. For fuck's sake, yeah. To verify it, you just do more experiments. Check that you get the same answer. Gene Graves, member for 6 months, that's half the way around the sun, says, still muted FTFE, by the way, love it here, still wanting to define what he thinks is the difference between descriptive and explanatory. It's just words. They mean nothing in the context of what we're talking about. Jiffy Jiffroll for $2 says, hashtag fight the mute button, love you, man. And Jiffy Jiffroll for $2 says, you lost weight and Kaleb found it. Yeah, fucking right. Call me fat again, Kaleb. Dare ya. Look at that gun. Jiffy Jiffworld gifted another membership. Thank you, Jiffy. I fucking love you, dude. And then Battle Against Misinformation for $2 says, oh my god, it's PhD Tony. I'm having a science-gasm. I get that every time he comes on. I totally understand. JPP3030 for $4.99 says, lived in the city where First LIGO is. No monkeys and not then a zoo. Yeah, definitely no monkeys affecting the LIGO. We can definitely say that. Mr. E-Man gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, Mr. E-Man. Guys, it's insane the amount of support I get. Mr. E-Man for $5 Australian says, FTFE is a savage for being a brute towards such a failure of a human as Kaleb. He is a failure. You're right. Nathan Bishop for $20. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for destroying Flatter Kaleb for me. Craig, I asked for it and got it. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. That was my gift specifically for you, Nathan. Aeon Dust for $5 Australian says, I know you can reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Yeah, you just need wait, I've forgotten the name of it. A sonic screwdriver to do that, right? Bill Tetley, $5 says, hey, fight the flat shirt, you sexy beast. Rage baiting stupid with stupid equals neutral. Kaleb. Thank you very much, Bill. Love you, buddy. Dave D for $2 says, my god, this kid is obnoxious. You ain't fucking wrong. Mr. E-Man, $5 Australian says, I made a mistake calling Kaleb a person earlier. Kaleb is an unevolved slime mold masquerading as a person. Mr. E-Man, please, in my chat, do not be so mean to, unevolved slime mold. Frankly, unevolved slime mold does not deserve that kind of disrespect from you. There is no reason to insult unevolved slime mold by comparing it to Kaleb. I think you owe unevolved slime mold an apology, frankly. It's Probing Time 666, Peace for Israel and Ukraine, for $6.66 Australian. Hail Sagan, you deserve this and much more just to compensate you for the frustration of dealing with this complete idiot. Thank you. It helps. Stephen York for $7.99 Australian. I propose a new award. As much as a cunt as Nathan Thompson award. Kaleb is getting close to winning. There's a lot of competition there, trust me. Jiffy Jiffwell for $2 says, but how do you spell your name, Carl? Get out. Mr. E-Man, $5 Australian says, I think you gave him the benefit of understanding half of what he was talking about. Yeah, no, he didn't. He didn't understand anything. At all. Coriolis Forza. What the fuck are you on about? Brendan Cuschetti for $50 Australian. Dude, thank you very much. I've watched for 5 minutes and my brain is already hurting. Kaleb is just so dumb. True words. True fucking words. Thank you very much for the support, dude. Katliana Verin with 50 gifted memberships. Thank you. I don't know what to say when I get that kind of support. It's absolutely mental. Guys, if you become a member today and you didn't do it yourself, then please say thank you to Eva Catriana, to Jiffy Jiffwo, to Mr. E-Man, or anyone else that gifted a membership. Really, really thank you very much. And Brendan Cuschetti, been a member for 37 months, says Kaleb needs help. You ain't wrong. Steve6464, who's been a member for 5 months, nearly halfway around the sun. Kaleb asks those questions that way on purpose. Kaleb is just dumb. That's all. Brendan Cuschetti gifted 5 memberships. Brendan, thank you very much. That takes us up to 71 new members today. PhD Tony, the only real man in the room, says for $5 Australian, he is saying Coriolis of forces. If Kaleb has an alternative explanation for these observations, he can present it and we can assess it. Why is he saying Coriolis of forces? That's not how you say that. And Rachbot, who's been a member for 47 freaking months, says Craig destroys a Flerf and looks good doing it. Arms and chest tomorrow. Always love a good bit of chest press. Tricep overheads. Oh, can't wait. In fact, as it's 3:45, it's arms and chest in about 5 hours' time. So, being that, it's time for me to go to bed, but you guys know that I can't leave you without us answering the important questions, like, can we pretend that airplanes are like shooting stars in the night? I mean, I screwed it up, but enjoy the song. Don't pause. Play. Thank you. Brendan Cuschetti for $20 says, every time I listen to Flerfs, I think of the Muppets song. Man up, man up.
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now.
Good morning. These words come with a storm warning. Better batten down the hatches, grab some matches and brace yourself for a long day of misery. YouTube has given me the power to reach up into the sky and show you all that we live on the ball. I bring you science that's comprehensible. Your view is indefensible. You're reprehensible.
Over, Mr. Sensible.
When I was young, I never thought I would be here to see this. A pile of random nonsense dressed up as bullshit. Your ignorance will be the death of us all, like running head first full speed into a wall. You could always read a book, buy a telescope, set it up and take a photo of the moon, or just be a buffoon. I'll send you in a balloon up to the stratosphere in page 3.
You're a few fries short of a happy meal. You're dumber than a box of hair. The wheel's spinning but the hamster's dead, and you're as smart as bait. You forgot to pay your brain bill. You're missing a few buttons on the remote control. 24 cents short of a quarter. You're surfing in Nebraska. You're as bright as Alaska in December, and you fell out of your family tree. You don't have all the cornflakes in one box. You got an IQ of 2 and it takes 3 to grunt. The elevator doesn't go all the way up, and there's a vacancy on the top floor. Your antenna doesn't pick up all the channels. You're several nuts short of a
You're Mr.
fruitcake.
Sensible, calm down, don't go too hard. You don't need the hearts like burying Flerfs in your backyard. You're a man of science, poise and grace. Mage 2 did everything to wipe the grins off the face. So Nathan, get away from those kids. The world is not flat and it doesn't have a lip. Recognise the differences between the textbook and the Bible and control yourself. Lay off your slander and your lies. You're a bunch of knobs poisoning the world of the youth, spreading lies that you like to claim as knowledge and truth. Stop spreading fresh bullshit like the butter on your bread. Maybe a musical assault will knock some sense into your head. I hope one day you'll hear these lyrics and smile, and you realise you used to be a 40-year-old child. Now it's time to wake up, open your eyes and see, and acknowledge the existence of
Gravity! You're a few clowns short of a circus. Your phone is off the hook. Your sewing machine is out of thread. You're all foam and no beer. You don't have all your dogs on one leash. An intellect rivaled only by garden tools. There's no grain in your silo, and your skylight leaks a little. Your belt doesn't go through all the loops. You couldn't pour water out of a boot without instructions on the heel. Your slinky's kinked, and you're proof that evolution can work in reverse. A few feathers short of a whole duck, one fruit loop short of a full bowl.
Airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars. Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain
Here comes
right
the good
now,
one.
brain right now. Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for
it's over? Well, I'm still standing while you're swinging, flinging feces, talking shit just like the human centipede. You got the mind of a chimp, and I'm here to expedite your shore leave. Cause I'm a seaman, but not the kind I writ up on your mom's gums. I'm the kind that sailed submarines and fired guns. I can float a boat across the ocean with my eyes closed, circumnavigate the globe with a compass and a bag of sausage rolls. Well, all you can do is nibble on your toes. I'll smack you with the hose that you call a water level, sit and swivel. You nasal gazing muppet, you can stuff it harder than the wallet stuffed by Warren Buffett. And I don't care about your sauces unless you're serving them. And I don't care about your lines unless you're curving them. Now step away from me, you're sucking up my oxygen with the vacuum where your brain should be, you dumb fuck.
Thank you guys for watching and supporting as always. Well, that's the TikTok Flerf dealt with. Satire article as evidence. Brilliant. Good job, mate. Well done. Not understanding what an inertial reference frame is or what a rotation is. I mean, brilliant. Great job, Kaleb. You did an amazing job of displaying flat Earth, which means that you were pretty fucking dumb. So anyway, I've had fun. I will see you back tomorrow evening as I talk to Al Truther about whether NASA are lying to us or not. Where is my outro? I've lost my outro. There it is. Remember, I love all of you. Like, you're all amazing. I absolutely love all of you. Not you, Gary. Remember that stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat Earth. Fight the flat. 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 Fight the flat.
Level.